spot, bringing stats like a kingpin. MMA knowledge meets his nephews all leaning, breaking down fights, calling stat daddy supreme. On just a tip show, he's cooking up a dream. Uncle Weezy, he the man, dropping fight facts, got it all on hand. He the stat attack grand, MMA guru, more than just a fan. Wanna know the numbers? Weezy got them cataloged, from the fighters reach down to how many times they dog. Just a tip living, breaking it down slick, hit you with the knowledge, won't miss a single trick. Uncle Weezy, he the man, dropping fight facts, got it all on hand. He the stat attack grand, MMA guru, more than just a fan. Balls deep predictions, he be making those calls, getting in the details, opponents feeling small. From jabs to takedowns, got the whole fight ID. Uncle Weezy spitting truth, no lie, keep it G. Blow the horn, blow the horn. Stat Daddy Weezy not showing no scorn. Fight Night Kingdom, he wearing the crown. Break it down for the peeps, never looking like a clown.
Yes. What's going on, everybody? It is Thursday afternoon, a little bit later than we normally do this show. We got UFC Noche coming up, UFC 306 this Saturday, the Sphere, Las Vegas, Nevada. Supposed to be one of the best visual experiences that we're ever going to see as UFC fans here. Movies between fights, a very unique venue. A very exciting 10-fight card with a lot of great matchmaking and all-action fighters. Maybe not the best name value card, but I think that this is going to shine in every way possible. Visually, I think inside the cage, we've got phenomenal matchmaking between fighters that put on all-action fights, and I think we're going to see some really good young prospects shine here, and I think it's going to be a great card. I'm really excited for it. So I'm looking forward to breaking it down with you guys. This is a show that we normally do for my Patreon and Dub Club members. The links to that are in the description of this video. If you want to support the work, join the Patreon, join the Dub Club. $25 a month for the probability package that includes the individual fighter stats, the matchup stats, access to the betting models for the over-under betting model, the prop betting model, the fight write-ups, the Discord, the trying to make some kind of a usable de facto bet calculator for everybody that's on the Patreon too. So if you saw probability yesterday, you saw that de facto bet calculator featured there. That's a really great little tool that I've created as well. So great way to support the work. Great way if you are a do-it-yourself gambler who does your own research. Joining my Patreon is going to give you access to statistics and analytics that simply nobody else in the business has. So check out that stuff in order to give you an edge over these books. I mean, I bet some of these books wish they had the analytics that I have access to. So please consider joining. It's a great way to make better decisions that will help you be a long-term winner in this game, which is very difficult to do. We're going to break down all 10 fights on this card. I have, how many pages in write-ups do I have here? I got almost 60 pages, and I'm not even done with it yet. So we're going to break down all 10 of these fights. Want to see what's going on with you guys in the chat here. We've got M.A. Liren in the room saying, "Oi, howdy, Unk. Just watched you with Clint because I wasn't sure if you'd post this week. Is there an official schedule? Used to be after contenders, but now it seems unclear. Thank you for your work." No official schedule right now. I've been changing my process for how I break down fights. It's been a lot more work on my end. It's not allowing me to be able to get out the work at the same schedule as I was getting it out before when I wasn't doing as much research. But I've also got to learn how to kind of balance the amount of work that I'm putting into these breakdowns with getting my content out long enough that it could be digested by more people. So still kind of in flux right now in terms with how I'm going to be getting out content in the future. But the plan going forward is to do much less free content on YouTube. There used to be some money in YouTube a little bit, you know, where you could actually you know, have some revenue coming in if you had a solid audience out there. Those days are over. These guys are absolutely destroying content creation right now. They are taking all the money. They take more than half of the donations that you get. They take 75 to 80% of the channel memberships that you have. And every single month, the advertising revenue that you receive for your videos goes down, 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 down. So the incentive to come here and work for free on YouTube is virtually gone now. So basically, my intention is just to get as many people on the Patreon as possible, do the best possible content, the most information intensive content that's available, so that people will actually financially support the work, because we can no longer really be financially supported by YouTube. The content creation model for people who do what we do, these MMA related videos that have like a 3 or a 4 day lifespan, there's literally zero money in content creation on YouTube for us. So I've got to figure out ways to get more people on the Patreon supporting the work, because otherwise it's just no point for me to show up here anymore. We got Olajuwon Dream in the room saying, "Oi, what is up?" We got Colby Saul saying, "Oi, yes, can't wait for this card, Weezy." That makes 2 of us. We got Yoti Lotos in the room saying, "Flapjacks, let's stack them high." We got 4-ounce Sniper in the room saying, "Oi, let's go, Boha." And we got Jeff saying, "Oh shit." And we got BT saying, "Oi, what's good, Unc?" We got JP Taylor in the room. We got Dick's Insider saying, "Oi, Prophet Weezy, thanks for being my work companion this evening as we go balls deep." Let's do it, man. I'm looking forward to it. We got Jacob Call saying, "Top of the afternoon, Weezy." We got Jeff saying, "I snapped and bought a ticket." There you go. Go enjoy it. Go enjoy that spectacle. It's going to be a phenomenal visual spectacle, and I think that the fights are going to be phenomenal too. And we got High Mark Waters saying, "Oi, we're live." Yes, we are. We got Gerald Lynch saying, "Live with you at 4 a.m. in the Philippines." I appreciate you for checking in at that ungodly hour, Gerald. What are you doing up at 4 a.m., man? Do you get up that early, or are you just up late? Wow. We got High Mark Waters saying, "Has Weezy become the best MMA capper out there?" I think I'm pretty good in terms of the amount of research that I put in and the amount, the value of the work that I'm putting out there on YouTube. I think it's really good. In terms of pure performance, this year has been a really tough year for, I think, a lot of us. These markets are getting a lot sharper. It's a lot harder to find mispriced lines. And I just think that a lot of dogs are not coming through this year. And it's been difficult to find those plus money bets that really hit big. So I don't know if I'm definitely not the best on performance this year, but in terms of, you know, the amount of work that I'm putting in to get to the predictions that I'm making, because like you say, it was not back-to-back Tapology first place, but it was 2 out of 3 weeks. Being first place by myself on Tapology with my predictions. And that is that's why the work is late, you guys. That's why, because like I say, just to write out 60 pages of notes takes hours. I mean, literally hours. And then you're doing hours of tape study along with that, taking notes on the tape study so that you don't have to watch it again the next time that they fight. Putting in all this work it's hard. It's very hard. And I'm glad that the results are showing on Tapology, and we're seeing, you know, back 2 out of 3 weeks being first place, which is basically mathematically impossible. So I think it's a testament to the work that I'm putting in. So, and he's saying the rise is something historic. I mean, I nobody will ever do that. Nobody will ever in this community get first place on Tapology 2 out of 3 weeks. So it leads me to believe that I'm onto something, but the numbers still need to improve, you guys. They absolutely need to improve. So that's on me. I've got to do a better job of selecting my bets. I've got to do a better job of trusting my reads. And if I do those things, you're going to not only see me having the most thorough researched opinions on the net, but you're also going to see me being up there with all the other cappers that are making a lot more money than me right now. We got Cuban Assassin saying, "Weezy, my man, I miss you, brother. Let's go this week." It's good to see you hanging out here, Cuban Assassin. Truly appreciate you. Saying best stats in the game for High Mark Water, and they are. I do. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that goes out there breaking my arm, patting myself on the back when I have great weeks, or you know, talking about all the bets that I hit. You know, I'll put up my, you know, for accountability, I'll put up, you know, what I do in terms of performance every single week. And you could always check me out on Bet MMA Tips to see where the performance has been. But yeah, man, I definitely think that my stats are unmatched. You're never going to find the kind of stats that are available on my Patreon or anywhere else out there. So Kristen saying, oh, a beautiful data breakdown, Noche UFC. I couldn't agree more. We got the Sigma in charge saying, me, English or Spanish? Boys, Frozen Hawk Tua Case O moves. Can I get a Hoya? I don't know what the hell any of that means. Welcome, Sigma in charge. We got Lane saying, greetings from Florida. Thank you, Lane. Good to see you hanging out in here. We got Let's Roll saying, oh, yes. What is up, Let's Roll? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got At Least He Didn't Lie, says Dirty Reg. We got Hi, Mark Water saying, no one is putting in the research like you, sir, and we really appreciate it. Dirty Reg saying, just say you do the best like we all try to do. Just take, oh, yeah, well, I am doing the best I can. Absolutely. Jacob Cole saying, sports gambling isn't legal in your state. That's horrible. I hope it will become legal in your state very soon, because it should be legal everywhere, in my opinion. I've always been a bit of a libertarian myself, so I feel that adults should be able to do with their money whatever they want, you know. So sports gambling should be legal, hopefully where you're at soon, Jacob. We got BT saying, we appreciate what you do for us, Weezy. Much love. Appreciate you. We got Achromatic saying, good shit, Weezy. My best was number 162 on Tapology, and that's really good. If you're getting 162nd place with the 5,000 people that are making predictions, that would mean that you would be right about in the top 3 or 4%. It's excellent. Achromatic hello, says the Sigma in charge. And Dirty Reg saying, nicely spoken. Tapology and bets we place is two different things. We can hurt ourselves by placing the wrong bets. Of course, we don't know that they're the wrong ones when we're making them. Yeah, it's definitely true. Yeah, I mean, like, we can get all the picks right, but you know, if you're betting the under 1.5 and then the guy gets you pick a second round KO and he gets the KO after 1.5 rounds are up, you know, you lost money. So you can still get the pick right and lose money on the bets. So that's the tricky part about what we do. And Jacob saying, it's terrible, bro. I can do DraftKings in my bookie. That's it. Yeah, and if you get a VPN, you can do Bet Online as well. That's a really great place, a really great book, offshore book that has great lines, early lines, and you can absolutely find some great spots there. And you know, they don't care that you're a U.S. citizen in a state that doesn't allow you to gamble, because they're not going to report your earnings to the IRS. We got JP Taylor saying he came in number 7 on Tapology for Urseg versus Perez. Put on the back. There you go. We got Remdog saying, what's up, Bump? Just pulled up to the house, about to head inside. Looking forward to discussing this card with you. Let's go, you guys. Let's do the research here. It's already been done. Like I said, I've got a ton of write-ups for you guys here, and we're going to start talking about the very first fight of the night, which is going to be Raul Rosas Jr., who is right now a minus 1,000 favorite over RAUL plus 700. Fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 550 for this fight. So if we talk about the trends of this fight, Raul Rosas Jr. is 9-1 as a pro. He's 3-1 in the UFC so far. His only loss as a pro came against Christian Rodriguez. That was a 29-28 unanimous decision loss, and he was a minus 250 favorite in that fight. Definitely let down the bettors that backed him there. Raul won the first round, but he was out-grappled in the second and the third by Christian. Outside of rounds 2 and 3 in the C-Rod fight, Raul has been dominant with his grappling and has won all the minutes and moments in his fights. The kid's still only 19 years old, and he's improving. So the fact that he's already been so dominant in the UFC is making it very expensive to back his money line, as evidenced by the current price of it. Now, RAUL is 25-10 as a professional. He's 3-3 with a no contest in the UFC. He's coming off a bad showing in the Daniel Marcos fight, where he was getting dominated before he got kicked in the sack and that made the fight a no contest. Before that, he won a 29-28 unanimous decision versus Johnny Munoz Jr., and he was a pick'em in that fight. And he was able to be the more efficient and effective grappler in that fight, which was kind of surprising, while outlanding Johnny 28-7 at distance striking range in significant strikes. So Aori was knocked out in the first round by Ayman Zahabi. He was a -120 favorite in that fight. So that was a fight where he really underperformed his expectations. Outside of that, I feel that the market's done a fairly good job of pricing Aoriqileng's fights. And then the strength of schedule, it's Aoriqileng who's faced a solid level of competition overall in the UFC, as his opponents have combined UFC records of 18 wins and 16 losses, which is a more impressive combined record than that of ROSAS opponents, which are 6 wins and 9 losses. Neither one of these guys has what I would call a solid UFC win, though, as Aoriqileng's wins come over Johnny Munoz Jr., Jay Perrin, and Cameron Else. The combined records of those 3 guys are 2 wins and 9 losses at the UFC level, while ROSAS has wins over Ricky Tercios, Terrence Mitchell, and Jay Perrin, and the combined records of those guys is 2 wins and 7 losses. So while Aoriqileng has fought the better brand of competition overall as a professional, these guys have definitely really have got similar wins to each other. Neither one of them has a win that kind of jumps out at you and says, oh, wow, this is the highest level opponent that one of these guys has beaten, because they're not beating anybody good. Now, when it comes to, let me see, wait a sec. Yeah, when it comes to the distance striking stylistic components here, neither of these guys are what I would call excellent strikers, but I'm going to favor Aoriqileng on the feet. He's very flat-footed. He throws with power, and he kind of waits to counter. Raul pressures on the feet, and he kind of wings wild hooks and uses those strikes to find entries on his takedowns. We saw Raul land a massive left hand against Terrence Mitchell and get a knockdown and a ground and pound knockout in that fight. So even though his striking is clearly a work in progress, it's getting better. And the additional threat of the pressure and the wrestling makes Raul even more difficult to deal with at distance striking range. I favor Aoriqileng at distance, especially if he can get into a rhythm of stuffing takedowns. But Raul probably is not going to let the fight stay standing for long. As we can see right here, if you look at these numbers, 17.3% that we see right there is, or wait, did I ever share my screen? I didn't even share my screen with you guys. Sorry. We've actually got the, we've got the stats up here, and I've got them highlighted right now, but 17.3% is that number right there that we see is the amount of time that Raul Rosas Jr. is spending at distance striking range. So, you know, while Aoriqileng might be better on the feet here, I don't think a lot of the fight is going to take place on the feet unless he can really get into a rhythm with great footwork, you know, lateral movement of stuffing some takedowns here and avoiding the pressure of Rosas. But that's not Aoriqileng's game. I mean, the guy's feet are about as mobile as a statue. So I think that Rosas' pressure is not going to allow Aoriqileng to stay at distance striking range. Now, when it comes to the clinch, the grappling stylistic components, you got to favor Rosas. The BJJ is his base, and he's widely considered to be one of the top prospects in MMA today with that base. He's still only 19 years old. He's already racked up 6 wins by submission as a professional, and he's finished all 3 of his UFC wins inside the distance. Raul offensively wrestles constantly. He's attempted 15 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's getting 5.2 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's spending over 50% of his UFC cage time controlling his opponents, and he's very good at getting to his opponent's back. Aoriqileng is allowed 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's been controlled by his opponents for almost 25% of his total UFC octagon time. Chileng needs this fight to be standing, and Rosas needs it to be on the mat. So Raul Rosas Jr. is 11 years younger than Aoriqileng. He's a switch stance fighter fighting an orthodox fighter. That's an on-paper advantage. He's the better finisher. He's the better grappler. but he's still inexperienced. And if he doesn't get his grappling game going, he probably loses this fight at -1,000. Now, Aoriqileng has got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's got the pro experience advantage with 26 more fights and like 6 hours of cage time more than Rosas has. And he's also got the UFC experience edge with 3 more fights and 45 more minutes of octagon time. Now, this is a striker versus grappler fight to start off the card. Raul Rosas Jr. is a 19-year-old grappling phenom who's looking to get his 4th straight UFC finish on Saturday. He's going to be looking to get takedowns, advance position on the mat, and look to finish with the rear naked choke. Aoriqileng is a veteran fighter who will be looking to land big shots on the feet, stuff Rosas takedowns, and put his experience advantage to work here by making the kid work for every takedown, making him pay for shooting sloppy takedown attempts. It's definitely favors Rosas here, which isn't a surprise because he's -1,000 on the money line. But Raul is predictable, but he's effective. He's going to pressure. He's going to wrestle offensively and look to get the fight to the mat. So Ari knows what he needs to work on and what the path to victory is here. The most dangerous kinds of fighters are the ones where you know what their game plan is going to be, but you still can't stop it. And that's what Raul looks to be at this point in his career. But this is going to be a good test for him. Aoriqileng is by far the most experienced opponent that Raul has faced thus far in the UFC. And he does hit hard. So Raul is going to have to be careful, but I'm picking Raul to win here and win by submission. And I think that Aoriqileng is going to hang out for a little bit here and make it difficult on him. And I'm going to pick Raul Rosas Jr. to win this fight by 2nd round submission. So let's make some picks. Make the picks. And we're going to go down here and we're going to say El Mariachi Loco, Raul Rosas by submission in round number 2. I think the over 1.5, even the fight goes to decision, are big plus money numbers here. And since Aoriqileng does know that, you know, what he's got to work on in order to survive the grappling exchanges in this fight, perhaps he is able to, you know, fight the hands and make sure that he doesn't give up the rear naked choke here. Because if he does that, this fight could go to decision, and it's plus 375. So I kind of feel like Raul Rosas Jr. by decision. Raul Rosas Jr. Rounds 3 decision could be interesting looks. And it's just saying that, you know, because you know what he's going to do, maybe Aoriqileng is going to be able to stop it. But I still do think I love Rosas' pressure on the feet, and I love that style for what his strengths are as a fighter. So we're going to go with El Mariachi Loco, Raul Rosas Jr. to win by 2nd round submission. We got Teron Brown in the room saying, "What's up, Uncle?" Oi, what is up, dude? We got Jacob Cole saying, "I've been watching Weezy for a few months. He might not always be right, but his MMA IQ is off the charts good." Yeah, I'm definitely not always right. That is for damn sure. Nobody's going to accuse me of being right 100% of the time. It's like Smooth Jimmy Apollo once said, "Folks, when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time." And it's words to live by. You know, we're going to get them wrong sometimes. We're always just trying to limit those losses and maximize the wins. And that's how we get to be long-term winners in this game. We got Professor Chaos saying, "What's up, Weezy? Thoughts on Zellhuber by submission? What is your favorite prop on this card?" Well, we did probability last night, and the bets there, we had Daniel Zellhuber by submission at plus 1150 is a trifecta bet on my betting model. I think it's worth a sprinkle this week because Esteban Ribovics is extremely durable. I don't think Daniel Zellhuber is going to be knocking him out. So I think if a finish is on tap for Zellhuber, it could potentially be by submission. He's got very long arms, great front chokes. So if Ribovics, you know, shoots a sloppy takedown and gets his head caught in there, that's probably the way that Zellhuber would finish this fight. So I like that spot, my man. Let me get the stats back up here on the screen, though. We got Real Fight Pick saying he's 18 minutes late. What's up, Unc? Don't worry about it, man. There's no. I might be the professor, but I'm not taking attendance, you guys. You know, you can skip my class and then get the notes from somebody else later on. Your Uncle Wheezy just doesn't care. He's not that committed to taking attendance every week. Robert Saladino is in the room saying, Wheezy, it's not 1 a.m. Let's go. Not sure what all the hate is for this card. I'm really excited for it. I am too. I do not hate this card. I absolutely love it from a fan's perspective and from a betting perspective. I think that there are some big time opportunities here. And we're going to talk about the next fight, which is going to be Edgar CHAIREZ at plus 200 going up against Josh Van, the minus 235 favorite here. The fight doesn't go to decision, is sitting at minus 145 for this fight. Let me see here. Let's get the notes up for this fight and start talking about the trends. So Edgar CHAIREZ is 11-5. I'm sorry, it's Edgar CHAIREZ is 11-5 as professional, and he's 1-1 in the UFC so far. He's 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw in his last 5 fights. Is that no? It's got to be a no contest. I'm sorry. 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. CHAIREZ's last 2 UFC fights were against Daniel Lacerda. He won both of them, but one was stopped due to referee error, and therefore it was ruled a no contest. CHAIREZ was priced as a big favorite both times against Lacerda and looked good each time. And he was priced at plus 600 versus Tyra, and he looked better than that number, but he just made some dumb decisions, putting himself on his back a couple of times, allowing Tyra to kind of clean him up on the mat. But I'd say CHAIREZ has been meeting, if not exceeding, the market expectations of him thus far in the UFC. And on the other side, we got Joshua Van, who's 10-2 as a pro. This kid's still only 22 years old, and he's 3-1 in the UFC so far. He's coming off a 3rd-round knockout loss versus Charles Johnson as a minus 250 favorite. And that was only 2 months ago, you guys. So that's, I think, kind of important. Before that, Josh was on an 8-fight win streak. He had won 3 straight in the UFC, knocked out Felipe Bunis in the 2nd round as a minus 265 favorite. He won a unanimous decision versus Kevin Borjas as a minus 235 favorite, and a split decision in his UFC debut over Zhalgas Zhumagulov as a plus 170 underdog. The market underestimated Josh Van at first, but caught on quick after the Zhalgas fight, pricing him as a minus 235 or better favorite in his next 3 fights. Josh is taking this fight on short notice, as well as it being a quick 2-month turnaround coming off a KO loss. So, and then the 7 days short notice for the fight needs to be taken into account as well. So there's some narrative issues that we definitely need to be aware of here on the Josh Van side. Very quick turnaround here of 1 month and 26 days from the point I made this spreadsheet. And then also, we got to remember he lost to Charles Johnson by KO in the 3rd round. So coming back a little bit quick from a KO loss and fighting on short notice against the guy in CHAIREZ who's never been knocked out as a professional is going to be a very interesting fight. Now, when it comes to the strength of schedule, on the aggregate, I'd say the overall strength of schedule numbers look like these guys have fought the same level of competition. However, CHAIREZ has only fought Lacerda and Tyra at the UFC level, and that doesn't tell us much because Lacerda's bottom of the barrel in the flyweight division, and Tyra is a top 10 guy who's probably going to be fighting for a title soon. Now, Joshua Van is somewhere in the middle of those 2 guys. CHAIREZ's lone UFC win is over the 0-win and 5-loss Lacerda, while Van's 3 UFC wins come against guys with a combined UFC record of 1 win and 9 losses. But I still rate Van's wins as better than CHAIREZ because he has wins over tough opponents in Zhalgas Zhumagulov, Kevin Borjas, and Felipe Bunis compared to CHAIREZ beating Lacerda. It doesn't really mean much. The distance striking, both of these guys are really good boxers. CHAIREZ is tall and long. He's 2 inches taller, and he has a 7-inch reach advantage over Van. Edgar throws a ton of low leg kicks to find his range. Then he finds the range on his jab. And once he does that, he sets up the rest of his offense like step-in knees and straight right hands. Now, Van is a pressure fighter. He's undersized for the division. So he looks to close the distance, find his way into the pocket with pressure and feints, and then he unloads with combinations to the body and head. Van does his best work when he's walking forward, putting combinations together and drawing his opponents in volume, drowning his opponents in volume. He loves to work the body, and that, along with the constant forward pressure, really kind of slows his opponents down later in fights. Van has the perfect style to combat the length of CHAIREZ. He's just going to have to find ways into the pocket without sustaining too much damage. It's important to mention that Van was just knocked out 2 months ago, so this is a quick turnaround coming off a KO loss for Josh, and CHAIREZ does have power, as he's 4 wins and 0 losses to the knockout as a professional. I favor CHAIREZ early in the striking exchanges, and as the fight goes on, if Josh doesn't get hurt bad early, I see him taking over in the second and third rounds. There's a big conditioning differential in favor of Josh Van here, but it just worries me that he's taking this fight on short notice, because that he needs to have that volume and that conditioning and that pressure for the full 15 minutes in order for him to be better than Edgar CHAIREZ here. And if he doesn't have that, he's not going to look minus 235, because he's not a good enough wrestler, not a good enough grappler to win minutes in the grappling exchanges against CHAIREZ, because neither of these guys really offensively wrestles much. I see this fight taking place mostly at distance striking range. However, if they do get into scrambles and wrestling exchanges, I favor the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu of CHAIREZ, who has 7 career wins by submission, while Van only has 2. Both of these guys have been submitted before, so either guy to win by submission could be a cheeky look. That being said, I don't see either of these guys initiating the grappling exchanges, but if they do, I think Van has a better chance to win the minutes, and I favor CHAIREZ's moment-winning ability, as he has a solid choke game, and he's very opportunistic with his submissions. Edgar CHAIREZ is 2 inches taller. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's the more experienced fighter as a professional, with 5 more pro fights, 20 more minutes of cage time in 5 more years as a professional fighter. I believe that Edgar CHAIREZ has the power advantage while this fight is on the feet. He does have one-punch KO power, and I think that he's the better submission grappler in this matchup. But conditioning for CHAIREZ, not great. And because of that, Josh Van could take advantage and win this fight down the stretch with his constant pressure, with his massive output. And the big difference here, 8.4 distance strike attempts per minute for CHAIREZ, 17.4 for Joshua Van. So with a guy like Van, you're getting somebody who's doubling up on average the amount of offensive output that he throws at distance striking range when you compare him to Edgar CHAIREZ, and it's over a much larger sample size as well. You know, this is 43 minutes of distance striking range here for Josh Van, while only 8.5 minutes for CHAIREZ. So if he is low volume, and we already know that he's got some conditioning problems, you could easily see if CHAIREZ doesn't have moments early in this fight, or if he's unable to find any grappling success, Van winning the second and third rounds here on volume. Josh Van's 5.5 years younger than Edgar. He's got the UFC experience advantage with 1 more fight, and he's actually got a half hour more of cage time at this level. I believe he's got the better pocket boxing when this thing gets in close, and I know that he's got the better conditioning. But he's coming off a KO loss 2 months ago. A quick turnaround could affect his ability to take damage, so we need to take that into consideration, in addition to the fact that he's on short notice here, so maybe he doesn't have the best weight cut as well. So I think the quick turnaround coming off a KO loss is important for Van, as is the fact that he's taking this fight on short notice. Van's best weapons are his conditioning, his durability, and his output. So if he isn't 100% ready to fight or in top condition, the reasons to lay juice on him are few and far between. CHAIREZ is 2 inches taller. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's the more experienced fighter with the more opportunistic submission game. Van is a pressure fighter. He's 5.5 years younger. He has more experience at the UFC level. His conditioning and output are what makes him such a difficult opponent to deal with. Van puts you on your back foot. He has the durability to eat your best shots and the conditioning to push a pace and break you late if your conditioning isn't up to snuff. The problem with all that is, what if the short notice means Van's conditioning isn't where it needs to be? What if coming back 63 days after being knocked out and receiving a 60-day suspension as a result of that knockout isn't ideal for Josh Van? It might not be, right? Has Van been sparring even? Is he kidding himself about being ready to take another fight this quickly? We don't know the answers to any of these questions, so that makes laying minus 235 on Van's money line a very sketchy proposition. If the Johnson fight didn't happen, my analysis would be Van weathers the early storm in the first, wins the second, and maybe finishes CHAIREZ in the third or wins a 29-28 decision. But with Van's durability, conditioning, and fitness for this fight all potentially being in question, I'd have to say this is a dog or pass spot. The CHAIREZ inside the distance line at plus 575, as well as the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 145. Both of those spots have my attention this week. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick the underdog in Edgar CHAIREZ. Puro Chicali, Levantate, Mexico. I think he's going to win this fight by second round KO. I think Josh Van is coming back too quickly. I think CHAIREZ can catch him. And I think that a submission is also on the table. I don't know whether CHAIREZ, if he finishes it, whether he gets it done by knockout or submission. I think both are on the table. But for a guy with a 100% finish rate, to be plus 195 on the money line and plus 575 on the inside the distance prop against the guy in Joshua Van who's been finished in his only 2 professional losses, that's a line that's just absolutely too good to pass up. So Edgar CHAIREZ inside the distance is going to be something that I play this week. And the pick is Puro Chicali, Edgar CHAIREZ by second round knockout. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Yeah, man, I've never met a card I didn't like. I don't like some of them, Gerald, because sometimes I'm tired and creating content is just so much work that sometimes I'm like, oh God, I wish there wasn't a card this week. That way I'd be able to catch up on some other life stuff. But I love this card. I can't wait for it. I think it's people are shitting on it, don't know what the hell they're talking about. AWMD in the room saying, Chi wee wees. What's up, dude? We got 4-ounce sniper in the room saying, rooting for the hometown guy in Josh Van. I think he's got this. Is he hometown to you? Because he's definitely not hometown to Vegas. Joshua Van was born in Myanmar, but it will always be Burma to me, just so you know. But he's a Texas guy, I believe. I'm pretty sure he's a Texas guy. But either way, this is going to be a hell of a fight. We got JMX CIV in the room saying, what's up, Wheezy? Much love from the UK. Oi, what is up, dude? JP Taylor saying, I like Van a lot. Most people, I like Van a lot, like most people, but there is such a thing as being overactive. I don't like this for Van. Edgar is the no chase side as well. I completely agree with you. And like I said, I'm probably going to have a half unit on CHAIREZ inside the distance at a fat plus money number this week. We got Omni Genocide in the room saying, oh, what is up, dude? We got Remdog in the room saying, now that I've settled in, let me offer up a proper oi. Welcome. Good to see you settled in here. We got Real Deal Prime in the room taking notes. We got Remdog in the room saying, I had this itching feeling this fight could go to decision and CHAIREZ could get the no J privilege win on the cards. Yeah, it could. You know, both these guys are known for being durable and difficult to knock out, for sure. But CHAIREZ has been finished twice by submission. And Van, I think, was somebody you could count on his durability, but two months removed from the Charles Johnson knockout. And let me just remind you that Charles Johnson is knocking out nobody in the UFC. That's why I think that the big plus money number here on CHAIREZ, it might be a trap, but I think that Puro Chicali is going to put up some numbers this week. And we got Gerald saying that he likes to sprinkle each fighter by split decision here. I don't think it goes to decision, but, you know, it could happen. And if it does, I think it's going to be a close fight, Gerald, so I don't hate that. Leader of men, says my guy AJ Wars. Welcome you, AJ. Good to see you hanging out in here. Jeff saying the FS1 era had some painful to get through cards. Yeah, man, that's for sure, dude. There were some. Robert saying, Weezy, head coach that is needed the least in pro sports, excluding combat sports. I'm guessing baseball. Yeah, you need one in basketball, right, to deal with all the submissions. Baseball, you really need to know who to start against what starting pitcher. Hockey, you gotta bring the lines in and out. God. I don't know, man. That's a good question. Maybe they're all worthless. Maybe they're all completely needed, but I'm not sure, man. Maybe it's MMA because the guys should know what they need to do at that point. Wish they added a couple more fights. Not me, but it is a great card. Yeah. I'm a fan of Josh Van. I heard he will arrive by van with a fan because he is hot shit. There you go, man. We got Edgar all day, says Robert. And Paul is in the room saying, hey, Weezy, good to see you hanging out in here, Paul. All right, let's get on to this next fight. It's going to be in YAZMIN Jauregui going up against KETLEN SOUZA. Jauregui's a big -500 favorite in this fight. KETLEN SOUZA is plus 385, and the fight doesn't go to decision here, is plus 195. So YAZMIN Jauregui, 11-1 as a professional. She's 3-1 in the UFC so far. YAZMIN was the former UWC strawweight champion, and she won the Combate Global Strawweight Tournament by stacking 3 wins in one night. She's coming off the 30-27 unanimous decision win over Sam Hughes as a -600 favorite. And before that, she was starched in the first round by Denise Gomez, and she was a -380 favorite in that spot. YAZMIN knocked out Estela Nunez in the second round as a -330 favorite after losing the first round of that fight. And she won her UFC debut over Yasmin Lucindo, and she was a -215 favorite in that fight. She's never been priced cheaper than 67% implied in her UFC fights, and she's been expensive as 85% implied. So the market is very impressed with YAZMIN's skill set, and they're willing to pay a premium to bet her money line. Outside of the Gomez fight where she got caught, she's been looking like a very well-rounded and high-level prospect. KETLEN SOUZA is 29 years old. She's 14-4 as a professional, and she's 1-1 in the UFC so far. KETLEN is the former SFT bantamweight champion and the former Invicta flyweight champion. She's fought for 5 rounds on 6 different occasions, and she's won 5 of those fights. KETLEN's coming off a unanimous decision win over Marnik Mann as a -380 favorite, and before that, she lost in the first round by a brutal Z-lock knee bar versus Karina Killer Silva, and she was a +175 underdog in that fight. I'd say she was priced properly in both fights. Now Souza's +350 versus Jauregui when she was only +175 versus Karina Silva at 125 pounds. So I'd say the market is underestimating Souza, but it's because of how confident the market has been backing YAZMIN Jauregui thus far. And when it comes to the strength of schedule, YAZMIN has 4 UFC fights compared to only 2 for Souza. Souza has the toughest opponent at the UFC level in Karina Silva, while the combined records of the 4 ladies YAZMIN has fought is 10 wins and 12 losses. YAZMIN's 3 UFC wins are over Yasmin Lucindo, who's 3-1 in the UFC, Estela Nunez, who's 0-4, and Sam Hughes, who's 4-5. So she has a couple of wins over tough opponents. Souza beat a very low-level strawweight in Marnik Mann and lost to a high-level prospect in Karina Silva. So Jauregui will be a different kind of challenge, but Souza is experienced. She has solid conditioning, and she's fought in 3 different weight classes as a pro. So Jauregui's not the toughest opponent she's seen so far in her career. But if she wins this fight, it would be the best win of her career. Jauregui has the strength of schedule advantage at the UFC level due to having more fights and better wins. And both ladies fought solid competition on the regional scene. But I would rate YAZMIN's regional strength of schedule as tougher due to having fought mostly in Combate, and that's the premier South and Central American regional scene promotion. So I would just rate YAZMIN's strength of schedule on the regional scene as being better than KETLEN's, just blindly based on the fact that she was fighting in Combate while KETLEN was fighting in other organizations. So in the interest of time, instead of breaking down the distance striking and clinch and grappling stylistic components of this fight, let's just say that YAZMIN is better everywhere. She's 3.5 years younger. She's got a 1-inch reach advantage. She's the better boxer. She's faster. I think she's the better wrestler as well. And I think she's more likely to win minutes in the striking exchanges. I think she's more likely to win minutes in the grappling exchanges. And as far as moment winning goes, both of these ladies have been finished in all of their losses. Ketlen Souza has got 4 losses. She's been finished in all of them. Yazmin Jauregui was knocked out in her only professional loss. So I would recommend, if anyone's thinking of betting this fight going to decision, that would be risky. I mean, I know that strawweight fights go to decision at a very high rate since, you know, in the history of the division, 32% or under 32% of strawweight fights have finished inside the distance. But this one here, my betting models really like violence in this fight. 6-fight sample size, 50% of them have finished inside the distance thus far. You've got a massive favorite in Jauregui, so I mean, a finish is definitely on the table for her. And you know, and Souza's been finished in all 4 of her losses. So the question is, does Jauregui finish this opponent, or does she win by decision? And I think that she does with the live crowd. With this being a high-profile card, I think she's going to bring the necessary aggression to find that finish. Fight doesn't start round 3 at plus 350 is something that my betting model likes quite a bit, as well as it's finding quite a bit of value on inside the distance prop here for Yazmin Jauregui at plus 295. So those are my favorite bets of the fight, and I'm going to pick Yazmin Jauregui to win this one by second round KO. So we're going to go Yazmin. We're going to go KO here in round number 2. UFC Noche, I think the young prospect is getting a favorable matchup here in order to find that win. What do you guys think? We got Radislav saying golf coach and or caddy. I think that's a really good that's a good one there, because like I think you need a baseball coach, you need a basketball coach, you definitely need a football coach. There's so many working parts on a football team. You need a head coach to kind of like delegate to the right guys in order to get the team all on the same page, you know. But golf is an individual sport, you know, and once you're out there, you know, it's like somebody telling you, hey, you should hit the front of the green. Well, thanks, dumbass. I know I need to hit the fucking front of the green. That's the hard part, is swinging the club in a way that makes the ball go where it needs to go. We got Edgar by sub and finish only. I like, baby. There you go. I like it too, man. We got Paul Vivret saying D. Gomes hits so hard and anyone can get caught, so there's no shame in that. Souza couldn't even put away Marnik Mann, who might be the worst female fighter on the roster. You know who didn't put away Marnik Mann as well? It was Josephine Knudsen. Now, she beat 7 shades of shit out of her for the entire fight, but she wasn't able to put her away, and Josephine is a good fighter too. So maybe that's not the worst thing in the world that Souza wasn't able to finish her, but yeah, man, we know that Denise Gomes hits different for a female strawweight. So yeah, not a ton of shame in that, but it's something we got to keep in our mind, that she has been knocked out before, that she's not invincible, that the chin is not ironclad. Let's see. And Colostrum is asking him who he wants to see him fight next. Yeah, and JP Taylor saying Manfred Mann, who one of our favorite songs ever, Blinded by the Light by Manfred Mann, better than Marnik Mann. I agree. Ice Viking saying tennis coach. I don't know, man. My man Tim Troiano is a tennis coach, and I don't want to say that tennis coaches aren't needed, because I played a lot of tennis growing up. Tennis coaches are important, probably more important than golf coaches, but not as important as a pro football coach, a pro basketball coach, pro hockey coach. I wouldn't say that, but Ice Viking, good to see you hanging out in here. Let's move on to the next fight. Miguel El Loco Torres going up against Ignacio Bahamondes. This is going to be one hell of a fight. Manuel Torres, a very small favorite here at -130. Bahamondes, the underdog, at +110. The fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced up to -350 for this fight, somewhere between 75 and 80% implied to finish inside the distance. Let's get my notes up here and let's start talking about the trends in this fight. So now Manuel Loco Torres, still only 29 years old. He's 15-2 as a pro, and he's 3-0 thus far in the UFC. Loco's on a 6-fight winning streak at the moment, and he's finished all but one of his 15 pro wins inside the distance. He's cashed 3 straight times in the UFC, every time by a first-round finish. Slept Frank Camacho in the first as a -130 favorite. Sent Nick Moda to the land of wind and ghosts with a nasty elbow in the first round. He was a -185 favorite in that fight, and he's coming off a first-round rear naked choke win over Chris Duncan as a -190 favorite. Manuel's been favored in all of his UFC fights, and he's paying off bettors who have backed him and making them look smart for doing so. I'd say the market has been right about Torres, but the way he's performing in the cage, he's been priced very cheap. So I expect a lot of people to back Torres, who's been on a very impressive and violent winning streak lately. Now, Ignacio Bahamondes is the younger fighter here. He's 27 years old. He's 15-5 as a professional, and he's 4-2 in the UFC so far. Ignacio covered his expensive -310 price tag in his most recent fight. That was a first-round head kick knockout over Christos Giagos. Before that, Ignacio dropped the ball as a -220 favorite. He lost a unanimous decision to Ludovic Klein. And before that, Ignacio won a 30-27 unanimous decision versus Trey Ogden, and he was a -400 favorite in that fight. Ignacio was 3-2 thus far in the UFC when he's priced as a favorite. So laying juice on Bahamondes has not been a profitable venture at the UFC level. But Ignacio cashed the only time he was priced as an underdog, and that was a +135 ticket against Roosevelt Roberts, who he won via highlight reel spinning heel kick KO. Let me get the stats up here for you guys for this fight. There we go. The strength of schedule for both fighters. The combined UFC records of Torres's 3 UFC opponents is 6 wins and 9 losses, while for Ignacio's 6 UFC opponents, it's 31 wins and 27 losses. So not only does Ignacio have 3 more fights at the UFC level, he's fighting the more experienced guys with the better win-loss ratios in comparison to Torres. Ignacio's UFC wins over Roosevelt Roberts, Rong Zhu, Trey Ogden, and Christos Giagos rate a little bit better, according to my metric, than Torres's UFC wins over Frank Camacho, Nick Moda, and Chris Duncan. But that being said, I think the wins are pretty similar for both guys. I do think Ignacio is the toughest opponent Torres has faced thus far, and that's a good thing because Torres has earned a step up in competition after the impressive wins that he's strung together. I'd rate Ignacio as having fought the better guys overall at the UFC level and give him the strength of schedule advantage in this fight. At distance striking range, both of these guys have phenomenal distance striking metrics at the UFC level, but we have a much larger sample size on the Bahamondes side with 62 minutes at distance striking range, while it's only 5.2 minutes for Torres. Ignacio is 5 inches taller, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and he stays extremely busy at range, attempting 17.4 distance strikes per minute while constantly switching stances. Torres is explosive as fuck when he's at distance. He throws his strikes with seriously bad intentions, and he's a front-loaded fighter who looks to get you out of there ASAP. Torres has 2 knockdowns in 3 UFC fights. He's finished 2 of his 3 UFC wins by way of knockout, and he's landing a knockdown on 4% of the significant strikes that he lands. I rate Ignacio as the more technical striker with the much better defense and conditioning, while Manuel will be the much more dangerous guy, especially in the first round. The longer this fight goes, I see Ignacio taking over with his technical minute-winning capability. Not only because we've never seen Torres go past the first round in the UFC, but because we've seen Ignacio do an excellent job of winning minutes and moments in the distance striking exchanges in all 3 rounds of all of his fights. Outside of a first-round knockout for Torres, I see Ignacio winning the distance striking exchanges of this fight fairly easily, and I also think Ignacio is live for a knockout at any point in the fight due to how effectively he sets up his head kicks from both stances. Now, when it comes to the grappling here, neither one of these guys offensively grapples much. Bahamondes is still yet to complete a takedown in 6 UFC fights, and Torres has only completed 2 in 3 UFC fights. But Torres did show an opportunistic and effective ground game in the Duncan fight. Torres got rocked early there. He clinched up looking to recover and was able to get 2 takedowns. And on the second one, he got to Duncan's back and he finished with the rear naked choke. I don't think Duncan thought Torres would wrestle, and Torres looked very capable once the fight hit the mat. Outside of that fight, we haven't seen Torres grapple at all in the UFC, but Torres is 7-2 in his pro career to the submission, so he's clearly a dangerous wherever the fight goes. Ignacio has a 1-2 career record to the submission, so I'd say Torres, especially early in the fight, is going to be the more likely guy to look to win minutes and moments in the grappling exchanges. Now, Loco Torres is a phenomenal finisher. That's one of the advantages that he has. He's finished 14 of his 15 pro wins inside the distance, and he has just as many wins by knockout as he does by submission, so he can find finishes wherever the fight goes. Ignacio is a solid finisher in his own right, but he's far more knockout dependent, as 10 of his 11 finish wins come by way of KO. Loco Torres, in my opinion, has more power, especially early in fights, and I think that he might be the better grappler in this fight. We will find out, and Bahamondes has 83% takedown defense at the UFC level, and 82% of his 75 minutes in the cage have been spent at distance striking range. So just because Torres is the better grappler on paper, in my opinion, I don't necessarily think it's very likely to get there. Excuse me. And then, but the weaknesses for Torres, that we don't know what his conditioning looks like, as we've only seen him go past 1.5 rounds once in 17 pro fights, and probably early finish or bust is Loco Torres, but that's debatable because we just haven't seen what he looks like outside of round 1. Now, Bahamondes has got a ton of advantages on paper here. He's 2.5 years younger. He's 5 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. Not only is he the younger fighter, but he's the more experienced fighter. Overall, he's got 3 more fights and over 2 more hours of cage time. At the UFC level, he's got 3 more fights and 70 more minutes of octagon time. He's younger, he's more experienced, and he has the strength of schedule advantage. And I think he's going to be the much better striker here. I rate Ignacio as the more technical striker who's more likely to win the minutes of this fight while being just as likely to win the moments here. And Ignacio might be prone to losing minutes in the grappling exchanges. I mean, like, if we're being honest, that's how Ludovic Klein beat him. Ludovic landed a big shot in the first round and won that round. But in the second round, Ignacio won it. And in the third round, if Ludovic hadn't gotten 2 takedowns, Ignacio would have won that fight. So Ignacio could lose minutes in the grappling exchanges, but because Torres's conditioning is a massive question mark, I don't think we can really count on Torres's ability to win minutes over a long time frame with a wrestling heavy attack. So what a great fight this is. I love the matchmaking and the stylistic components of this fight. Both of these guys are tall and long for the division. They both have power in their striking, and both guys have winning UFC records. Torres is a front-loaded fighter with a ton of power and an opportunistic submission game. He's finished all 3 of his UFC wins in the first round. The market is really high on him right now, and why not? He's absolutely dick-sawed all 3 of his UFC opponents thus far, and he's showing the new wrinkles in his grappling game last time out against Duncan. That doesn't hurt either. Ignacio, though, 2.5 years younger, 5 inches taller, 2-inch reach advantage, more experienced overall, more experience at the UFC level, has faced and fought the better brand of competition as a professional. I'd rate him as the better minute winner and is also the more likely moment winner after the first round in the striking exchanges. And he's shown excellent takedown defense at the UFC level. So Torres has a lot to prove here. I think Ignacio toys with him at distance striking range, and that he uses his durability and his heart to weather the early storm, drag Torres into deep waters, and finish him with the striking in the second or the third round. This is a step up for Manuel, and there are too many questions about his durability to win minutes and his conditioning to favor him against a striker of Bahamondes' quality who has never been knocked out as a professional. I'm going with Bahamondes with a decent amount of confidence, and I think that this line is off. I'm going to be backing the Bahamondes side with my tracked bets this week, and the pick for this fight is going to be Ignacio Bahamondes to win by second round knockout. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Yeah, if Souza can land on Yasmin, then it will get interesting. We got callers from saying Torres is a lock. We're on opposite sides there. JP saying, I like One Way Glass by Manfred, but Blinded by the Light is an excellent song. Yeah, it is, man. Looking forward to the Torres Bahamondes fight. So am I, AJ. It's an early fight of the night contender for sure. Wheezy, but Torres has only ever fought people that would be legally considered midgets in a third of U.S. states. Bahamondes is much, much taller. Yeah, dude. But you know what? They're listing Torres at 5'10", and I feel like Torres might be 6 feet tall. I don't think Ignacio is going to be 5 inches taller than him. But yeah, Torres has fought a lot of smaller guys for sure. The bookie man in the room. Listen, bro. Nacho is going to finish Torres. Mark my words. Valley Flow striking takeover is upon y'all, and he would know. I mean, look at him there with Juliana Pena, former champion. Yeah, dude, I'm with Valley Flow striking here. I'm on the Ignacio Bahamondes side, and I agree with you that he's going to get a knockout. Dixon saying Nachito Baja has championship aura that rubbed off from Bilal. Yes, sir. There we go. JP saying I agree. Dixon, and a plus money for Ignacio now. Yes. Dixon saying not he's going to win, not saying he's going to end champ, but that he's feeling extra inspired and motivated. Nacho is one of the best in the gym and a big reason Bilal has the belt. Wow, that's high praise. I do love me some Ignacio saying Olajuwon. Red Bar Rant says literally the worst fight card of the year. Can't stand how basically I don't know who these fighters are, and don't tell me do either. I'm a hardcore fan from Blockbuster to Fight Pass. 2 good fights. The main event and Ortega versus Lopez are the only 2 good fights on the card. Barely excited about Valentina versus Grasso. The fact that it's Noche. Yeah, I mean, I disagree with you completely there, Red Bar Rants. I love this card. I think Torres versus Bahamondes is a banger. I think CHAIREZ versus Van is a banger. Raul Rosas Jr. is a very exciting prospect. Ronaldo versus Osbourne, while not a pay-per-view value fight, in my opinion, is going to be a very fun fight. And ZELLHUBER versus RIBOVICS is going to be one of my favorite fights on the card. Ortega Lopez should be awesome. Grasso versus Shevchenko, extremely high-level fight. And Sean O'Malley versus MERAB, one of the most interesting stylistic matchups of the year. So I really like this card. But I understand there are people that don't like it, and that's fine. We don't all have to agree on everything. We got Gogo saying, what's up, Wheezy? Glad to make the show. God bless you, Gogo. Good to see you hanging out in here, my man. Appreciate you as always. We got the bookie man saying Nacho is ready to go. He's been ready for months. Take the round 3 finish. Oh, dude, I was between round 2 and 3, and I thought, I was like, it's either going to be round 2 KO or round 3 KO. Maybe I'll change my pick to round 3 KO for yeah, let's do it. Round 3 is going to be the official pick there. Bahamondes round 3 because the bookie man said so. Torres violence. Yeah, well, Torres is a very violent dude, and I love Torres's round 1 line at plus 380. Oh, yes, says Grateful Dude. We got the bookie man saying, I always tune into Wheezy to see his thoughts on my guys. Appreciate you, the bookie man. We got Benjamin Andre saying Ignacio is a beast, a tough kid. I put over 1.5. There you go. Red Bar has to be trolling. No, I don't think he's trolling, man. I think some people don't like this card, and I get it, man. Like, if they're talking about this being one of the biggest cards of the year, and then you're putting Ronaldo versus Rodriguez versus Ode Osbourne on the pay-per-view card, that's going to piss some people off. Yeah, you know what you're going to get. That's true. I'm not trolling. I hate the card, and you've never heard of some of these guys. I wanted to go to the card because I thought it was going to be Conor versus Chandler. It was a damn good chance that that fight would have been on this card, and I would have loved to have gone. Yeah, dude, that would have been cool. But yeah, it's now we just got to root for Conor McGregor to become the president of Ireland, you guys. That's the next chapter in the Conor McGregor saga, and he's going to make that country great again. You watch. But let's move on to the next fight, which is going to be Yazmin Jauregui going up against Ketlen Souza. Jauregui, or no, wait, we already did that one. Irene Aldana is a slight minus 113 favorite over Norma Dumont, minus 107. Fight doesn't go to decision for this one. Is sitting at plus 300. Let's get these stats up on the screen for you guys. Sip of the coffee here. Working hard, reading 60 pages of notes for you guys. So thank you for joining here, and let's find some ways to make some money. All right. What do we got here for this one? So, recent trends. Irene Aldana, 36 years old, 15-7 as a pro, 8-5 in the UFC. She's won 3 of her last 4 fights, with the only loss coming against the consensus female UFC GOAT in Amanda Nunes. Irene is coming off a 29-28 unanimous decision win over Carol Hossa, minus 185 favorite in that fight 9 months ago. Before that, she lost a 50-44 unanimous decision to Amanda Nunes in a 5-round fight for the UFC Bantamweight Championship. Before that, Aldana got a come-from-behind win via upkick to the liver versus Macy Chiasson. She was a minus 185 favorite in that fight, and she had a 14-month layoff between the Chiasson and the Santos fights, and Aldana got a first-round ground-and-pound KO win over Iana Santos as a plus 100 underdog, but she missed weight by 3.5 pounds for that fight. I'd say the market's been pricing Aldana fights fairly over the last 3. Norma Dumont, a little bit younger, 33 years old. She's 11-2 as a professional, and she's 7-2 in the UFC so far. Norma's currently on a 4-fight win streak, all by unanimous decision. Norma cashed a slight minus 115 favorite versus Germaine de Randamie, a minus 145 favorite versus Chelsea Chandler, and a minus 115 favorite against Carol Hossa. So the market has been underestimating Norma in recent fights. She did stumble as a minus 220 favorite versus Macy Chiasson back in 2022, but Norma has missed weight 3 different times in the UFC due to the amount of junk that she carries in that trunk of hers. But she's 7-2 in the UFC, and she keeps cashing tickets at near even odds, and she's been winning decisively lately. So I'd say that the market has underestimated Norma Dumont recently, and fighters that have backed her over these last 4 fights are cashing very good tickets, and she's looking a lot better than her price tag. So when you look at the strength of schedule here, Irene has 13 UFC fights compared to 9 for Dumont. My overall metric shows Aldana as having fought the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss records. Aldana has fought Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, Caitlin Sermonara, Ketlen Vieira, the current champ Raquel Pennington, to name a few. Aldana's definitely been tested at a higher level on the aggregate than Dumont has. However, the strength of these ladies' UFC wins are pretty even. The combined records of the 8 ladies Aldana beat, 38 wins, 34 losses. That's 6.7 total fights and it's 9 total fights and a 1.1 win-to-loss ratio. And the combined records of the 7 ladies Norma Dumont beat, 26 wins and 21 losses, 6.7 total fights, a slightly better win-loss ratio in her wins at 1.2. So I'd rate Aldana as the more experienced and tested fighter at the UFC level overall. But the strength of these ladies' wins are very similar, and I think that's the best way to judge where these fighters are. Is, you know, it doesn't matter if you're out there getting your ass shaved by much better fighters. It doesn't often tell you how you're going to do against somebody that's a few steps down the ladder, from a Raquel Pennington, from an Amanda Nunes, and that's what Norma Dumont is here. So these ladies' wins are very commensurate with each other, and you see both have wins over Carol Hossa. Both ladies have fought Macy Chiasson, and while Norma fought a very close fight with her, Irene also fought a very close fight with her. It's just the results are different because of the fluke up kick that Irene Aldana landed on Macy. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. And when it comes to the distance striking components here, Irene's going to be the busier striker, but I've never been impressed with Irene's ability to win minutes at distance striking range. I feel like she's very dependent on landing big shots. And if she doesn't do that, she's getting outworked. She's getting outworked by her opponents. Her accuracy is below average at 38%. Her defense is a little bit below average as well. She's got a negative 1.4 distance striking differential, but she has power. She's won 4 of her 8 wins inside the distance at the UFC level, but at the UFC level, she's 4-5 to the decision. And like I said, I know it's against a much better level of competition, but when you stack up who these ladies are beating, they're both performing at a similar level against commensurate competition. Ladies like Carol Hossa, ladies like Macy Chiasson. So it's an interesting fight because I think that these ladies are very well matched on the feet. But the problem is that Dumont goes out there and wins minutes in the grappling exchanges, and Irene Aldana doesn't. So Norma's somebody who's flashed some power as well. She's lower volume than Irene is, but she's way more efficient. You're talking about a negative 1.4 distance striking differential compared to positive 1.8 for Norma. So I'm not even sure that Irene, who has flashed more power at this level, is more powerful than Norma, because Norma's landing knockdowns on a higher percentage of her significant strikes. So I think that this is going to be very close on the feet, but the problem is that Irene doesn't wrestle offensively, and she's given up takedowns to the ladies who have bothered to try to take her down, and Norma's getting her takedowns at a 68% clip. So I think that the distance striking exchanges are going to be close. I see Irene doing more, but I see both ladies having the potential to land eye-catching shots. But since I favor Norma Dumont in the grappling exchanges, I favor her ability to be able to go out there and maybe win a round or two by getting takedowns, or at least mixing them in to distinguish herself should the round be close on the feet. So I'm going to go with Norma Dumont. I'm going to pick her to win this fight by decision. Right. And I also see some, if you're thinking that there potentially could be violence here in this fight, I like fight to end in round 1. And I think Irene Aldana by first round KO are good looks this week. Big numbers. Fight doesn't start round 2 plus 1,100. Irene Aldana first round KO plus 2,400. I think are both massive numbers that have a little bit of value according to my betting models this week. But like I say, the pick here is going to be Norma Dump Truck Dumont to win this one by decision here. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Ribovics fight and Torres fight are both better than Conor and Chandler. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, because Conor's not really a fighter anymore. I mean, he's a spectacle, but the guy's dog shit in the cage. I mean, he's a cokehead. I'd much rather fight Esteban. I'd much rather watch a real fighter right now, like Ribovics, like Torres, for sure. Omni saying, I bet against for every fighter on this card. Or 4. Yeah, so I mean, these are fighters that that get your attention. Yeah. I can't believe the guy from Roadhouse might be president. Yeah. He might. It could happen. It could absolutely happen. Yeah, at some point, says Omni. JP saying all the cards are watered down now. It's the matchups that make this card good. Only 2 bad matchups, 8 really good ones. Norma will use wrestling and out-muscle her. Dumps like a truck for the win for sure. KO that button, that like button says shaky with life. Appreciate. Yeah, hit the like button. Leave me a comment. Subscribe to the channel. And please consider joining the Patreon to get access to these stats and to the Patreon-only content that is usually 4 hours every single week. Check that out to support the work. The Bookie Man saying, Weezy, do me a favor and sprinkle the sub 2-3. Don't get stuck on the TKO. And you're talking about for Ignacio Bahamondes. I know, man. I know. I like Bahamondes by sub too, dude. It's going to be the inside. I'm going to be making an inside the distance bet on Bahamondes. Norma wins via lotion and oil combo. 4-ounce sniper. We all know exactly what you're talking about. Colostrum says, Paul, what's up, bro? I spoke to you earlier. Thought maybe you had stepped away from the stream for a minute. I don't have the option, but what are your thoughts on Aldana inside the distance only and Dumont decision only? I like both. Dumont's not a finisher, and I think Dumont's the better minute winner. So I think both of those bets make perfect sense to me, Ramdog. We got Norma as a target on her back for a couple of statements she's made lately. Okay. And a sizable back it is. Yes, it is. AJ making his thoughts well known. We got Paul saying, I must have missed it, brother. Sorry. They are going the distance, says Bookieman. Yeah, I'm sure they are. Weezy, let's not forget that only does Norma carry the power of OnlyFans boost, but she also carries the full weight of the strongest 10 in MMA history. Betting Brazilians in the UFC is plus EV. Split decisions live here. Now that Michelle Watterson is retired, I'm grateful for Dumont. Just placed a 16-leg parlay, says the 4-ounce sniper. 1 unit to win 39. Good luck to you on that. We got Zilla YT in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Zilla?" We got Real Fight Pick saying he's got Dumont as well. Dump Truck Dumont, but the judges are going to be scary this week, so it's a hard pass. Agreed. They said the sphere was subtly changing during the fights, but what happens when someone gets finished? LOL, yeah. Love the breakdown, says Lush. Appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out. And damage beats control this time, this week at least. We'll see. That changes every single week. Who knows? I almost forgot to add lesbians, Brazilian lesbians in the UFC's plus EV for sure. Call the hotline 4-ounce sniper 1-800-GAMBLER. We're live, says the Aussie fight fan, and I would last longer in a cage with John Jones than with Dumont. I hear you, man. All right, let's move on to this next fight as we get into the main card here. It's going to be Ronaldo Lazy Boy Rodriguez at minus 145 going up against Ode Osbourne, the plus 125 underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision here, sitting at minus 170 for this fight. Let's get these stats up here. And let's start talking about the trends in this fight. So Ronaldo, coming off a second-round submission win, is a minus 120 favorite. So he definitely overperformed his expectations against a subpar UFC opponent in Dennis Bondar. Prior to that, he was fighting in Lux Fight League, so the lines were unavailable for those fights. Luis is 16-2 as a pro. He's currently on a 6-fight winning streak, with the loss being against Jerome Rivera on Dana White's Contender Series, and a lot of people thought he won that fight. If Luis got the nod in that fight, he'd currently be on a 13-fight winning streak. Luis's only 2 losses as a pro come via very close decisions. Now, Ode Osbourne, he's 12-7 as a professional, and he's 4-5 in the UFC. Ode's on a 2-fight losing streak, and he's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. All 3 of those losses were finishes, and the win was by split decision. So needless to say, the market's pretty low on Ode Osbourne right now. The combined UFC record of Ode's 9 opponents is 29 wins and 32 losses. The 4 guys Ode beat in the UFC have combined records of 9 wins and 14 losses. So while Ode has definitely fought the better brand of UFC competition overall, the level of wins for Ode isn't that much better than Rodriguez. Both these guys fought Jerome Rivera. Ode won by first-round knockout. Rodriguez lost a unanimous decision, but Rodriguez was 19 years old when he fought Jerome. I'd rate Ode as the guy with the tougher overall strength of schedule, as well as being the guy with the better wins as a professional. When it comes to the striking, I favor Ode's distance striking skills more than Rodriguez. The biggest problem with Ronaldo is how hittable he is. He showed 37% distance striking defense in his UFC debut against Bondar, and he's too willing to stand and trade in the pocket with no concern for his own safety. Rodriguez definitely has a reliable chin, and he trusts that, and he likes to drag his opponents into slugfests. Ode's a southpaw with an 8-inch reach advantage here, so he's going to try to use that length to control the distance and stay behind his kicks and jab so that he can score points while staying safe. Ode's distance striking differential is way better than Ronaldo's. It's even compared to negative 4.5 for Ronaldo, as is his accuracy at 35% compared to 30% for Ronaldo. And his distance defense, while being pretty shitty at 49%, it's still a lot better than Ronaldo's at 37%. So Ode's striking has been tested at a much higher level, and his height and reach advantages should help him stay safe and manage distance well. Both guys have power, but it's definitely Rodriguez who's more durable. But I think that Ode is going to be the much better striker here. And when it comes to the clinch and grappling, I think that this is interesting because Ode can potentially win some minutes with his grappling game. I rate Ode as the better wrestler. We saw Luis get taken down at will in the Bondar fight, and he gave up takedowns on the regional scene as well. But Ode has a bad habit of giving up his back on the mat, and when he does, he can give up the rear naked choke. That's how Rodriguez finished Bondar, and that's how we saw Filio and Almabayev finish Osbourne. I think Ode's probably the more likely guy to win minutes, and Rodriguez the more likely guy to finish the fight with a back take and a rear naked choke. Ronaldo Rodriguez is 7.5 years younger than Ode. He's actually got more cage time as a professional, almost an hour more minutes in the cage compared to Ode Osbourne. He's the more durable fighter, as Ronaldo Rodriguez has never been finished as a professional, but Ode's been finished in 6 of his 7 pro losses. And he's got the moment winning in the grappling exchanges here, as I think that Ronaldo is just more opportunistic on the mat. Now, Ronaldo Rodriguez is very hittable on the feet, and he's got low-level professional wins. So I think if he beats Ode Osbourne here, it'll be by far his best win as a professional by a mile. Now, Ode Osbourne, 1 inch taller, 8-inch reach advantage. He's the southpaw in the southpaw versus orthodox matchup, which is a statistically significant advantage to have. He's got the UFC experience advantage with 8 more fights, 45 more minutes of octagon time. And I believe that Ode Osbourne is the better striker here. I believe he's more likely to win minutes and moments at distance striking range. And when it comes to Osbourne's weaknesses, it's the durability and the submission defense. So this is an interesting fight. I'm not particularly high on either of these guys right now. Ronaldo's 7.5 years younger. He has more pro cage time than Ode. He's never been finished as a professional, while we've seen Osbourne be finished in 6 of 7 pro losses. His back takes and his opportunistic submission game make him very dangerous to deal with on the mat. Ode is taller, he's longer, he has more high-level experience, he has the strength of schedule advantage, and I believe he should be the better minute and moment winner in the striking exchanges. I don't agree with Ronaldo being the favorite here. He lost the first round to Denise Bondar, and he was lucky Denise tapped with 1 second left in the second round. This is a big step up for Ronaldo, and I think he has a lot left to prove at only 25 years old. People are really low on Osbourne right now, and I get it. He's lost 3 of 4 fights. The win was a split decision, and he was submitted by Almabayev and Filio. But that being said, Rodriguez is a massive step down in competition. His striking defense is awful. His offensive wrestling isn't very good, and Osbourne is more technical and crisp at distance striking range. I have to go with Osbourne here. I think the line should be flipped, and I think people are confusing Osbourne's level of competition he's fought recently with a guy in Rodriguez who's not on those fighters' level. I trust Ronaldo Rodriguez's conditioning and durability, though, so the pick is going to be Ode Osbourne to win this fight by decision. So I'm going with the Jamaican sensation here. Ode Osbourne, the underdog, to win this one by decision. All right. Let's see. AWMD is saying Lazy Boy by sub, and that is definitely in play. I think he's the much more likely guy to finish this fight. It's going to hit. Trust, says 4-ounce sniper. Poor Ode is being used as a sacrificial lamb. I mean, maybe he is, but I just don't think that. I don't think Ronaldo Rodriguez is very good, you guys. This guy has got a lot to prove still at this level. Ode is the much better fighter on paper. We'll see how this one plays out, though. I heard the Easter eggs are not easy. I know one on the first short film. Everyone should catch it quickly, and it's in the first 10 seconds. Easter eggs are going, what? There's stuff in the videos that we're supposed to find out. Weezy, check out Combo Breakers 99 stream tonight at 6:30. Combo Breaker 99. Okay, if I'm around, I'll try to check that out. I know most people are too cool for the chick fights, but Combo is some of the best breakdowns and chats about WMMA. Plus, there are great people over there in the chat. All right, sounds good, man. The bookie man saying, I seen Ode, and I don't think he's truly prepared. Paycheck fight. Maybe that could be. It could be a paycheck fight for him, for sure. But all right, let's move on to the next one. And it is going to be Daniel Zellhuber, minus 220, going up against Esteban El Gringo Ribovics, who is the plus 185 underdog. The fight doesn't go to decision here, sitting at plus money at plus 140. All right. All right. Let's see where I got for my notes here. Let's talk about the trends. So, there we go. Daniel Zellhuber, 25 years old, 15-1 as a professional, and he's 3-1 in the UFC so far. Daniel has won 3 of his last 4 fights, with his only pro loss coming in his UFC debut versus Trey Ogden by unanimous decision, and he let people down as a minus 390 favorite in that fight. After that, Daniel cashed a unanimous decision win over Lando Venata as a minus 125 favorite there. And then a second round submission over Christos Giagos as a minus 290 favorite. And his most recent fight was a unanimous decision win over Francisco Prado as a minus 275 favorite. The market's very high on Zellhuber as a prospect, and he's been overpriced in every UFC fight except for the Venata fight when he was coming off a very disappointing loss. Zellhuber has been overpriced lately, but it reflects how high the market is on him and what a solid, well-rounded prospect he is. El Gringo is 28 years old. He's 13-1 as a pro, and he's 2-1 in the UFC so far. Esteban has won 2 of his last 3 fights and is coming off a spectacular first-round head kick KO of Terrence McKinney, and he was a minus 165 favorite in that fight. Before that, he won a unanimous decision versus Camuela Kirk as a minus 175 favorite, and he lost a unanimous decision in his UFC debut versus Loic Rajabov as a plus 400 underdog. Ribovics was minus 250 against Thomas Paul on Dana White's Contender Series, and he won that fight by first-round knockout. When Esteban's been priced as a favorite, he's done an excellent job of paying off his price tag, and as a dog, he's looked better than where he's been priced. I'd say the market is slightly underestimated Ribovics while slightly overestimating Zellhuber when it comes to pricing their lines. When it comes to the strength of schedule, my UFC strength of schedule metrics slightly favor Ribovics' strength of schedule thus far in the UFC. The combined records of Daniel's 4 UFC opponents are 14-19. So it's 8.3 fights, 0.7 win-loss ratio for him. And for Ribovics, it's 8 wins and 8 losses. That's 5.3 total fights and a 1.0 win-loss ratio. So while Zellhuber has fought the more experienced brand of UFC competition in guys like Ogden, Venata, Giagos, it's Ribovics who's fought the guys with the better win-loss ratios like Terrence McKinney, Camuela Kirk, and Loic Rajabov. I'd say both guys' UFC wins rate pretty similar to each other. On paper, Esteban has a slight advantage, but I think the strength of schedule is really pretty even for these two guys. Both of these guys, when it comes to the striking, are excellent strikers, but their styles aren't the same. Daniel is tall, he's long, he's technical, and he's sharp. He stays behind an active and crispy jab. He does an excellent job of using his kicks to maintain range and outpoint his opponents. Daniel switches stances constantly and does his best work when he's on the front foot and controlling the distance. Esteban is more of a wild man. He throws a ton of volume. He constantly switches stances. He has a ton of power in all of his strikes, and he throws with reckless abandon. Both guys have reliable chins. I favor Esteban in the striking exchanges due to his style. Daniel doesn't deal with pressure well. He needs space to operate. When he finds the range on his jab and front kicks, it makes it extremely difficult to close the distance on him. But Esteban does a good way of finding his way into the pocket by switching stances and throwing power strikes from both stances. Esteban's striking metrics are better almost everywhere. He's got a positive 4.4 distance striking differential. compared to only positive 0.2 for Zellhuber. His accuracy at 51% is much better than Daniel's accuracy at 36%. He's landing more distance strikes per minute spent at distance at 10.6 compared to only 5.1 for Zellhuber. And he attempts more, as he attempts 20.6 distance strike attempts per minute, while it's only 13.9 for Daniel Zellhuber. And then the distance power numbers are better as well for RIBOVICS, as he's landed 2 knockdowns and is getting a knockdown on 1.1% of his significant strikes that he lands, while Zellhuber in more fights has only 1 knockdown and is landing his on 0.3% of the distance strikes that he lands. Esteban is way more active. He pressures constantly. He throws with more power and purpose, and his chin is reliable enough to allow Esteban to be reckless in the pocket and throw his strikes with power and purpose, and that makes him a very dangerous fighter. When it comes to the grappling, I don't think there are going to be many grappling exchanges in this fight. Daniel has 0 takedowns in 4 UFC fights, and Esteban has only gotten 2 takedowns in 3 UFC fights, and he's been out-controlled on the mat 45% to 6%. So Esteban loses a ton of minutes, allowing takedowns and ground control time. That shouldn't be a problem against Zellhuber, who we haven't seen wrestle offensively at all yet in the UFC. If Daniel did mix in some offensive wrestling, it would help him win some minutes here, but it's impossible to know if Daniel has that in his back pocket or if he's comfortable enough with his wrestling to go to it at this level in a big pressure fight like this. Zellhuber's strengths here, he's the younger fighter at 3 years younger. He's 3 inches taller. He's got an 8-inch reach advantage. In addition to being the younger fighter, he's the more experienced fighter. 2 more professional fights, 45 more minutes of pro cage time. He's more experienced at the UFC level with 1 more fight there, 25 more minutes of octagon time. And I believe he's the more technical striker. He's way more crisp. He has a style that manages distance well by staying behind his jab and his front kicks. Now, RIBOVICS is a phenomenal finisher. Esteban fights with urgency at all times. He wants to kill you on the feet, and he does a good job of using his Kimura trap to defend in the grappling exchanges, as well as use it offensively or to try to get to his opponent's back. 7 wins by knockout and 5 wins by submission. So Esteban is versatile in his ability to be able to finish fights. He's got a ton of power. Esteban throws with more power, and his UFC striking metrics reflect that. Both guys are 7-0 to the knockout as a professional, but Daniel has 0 UFC knockouts and Esteban has 1. Esteban lands knockdowns on 1.1% of the distance strikes that he lands, and for Zellhuber it's 0.3. And Esteban's got the output advantage. He pressures forward and he throws a ton of volume. He is not going to give Daniel space to breathe by staying in his face and constantly throwing. Esteban has got bad takedown defense, and he loses too many minutes on the mat. So it'll be interesting to see if Zellhuber can take advantage of that. Now, this is going to be a hell of a fight. Zellhuber is such an interesting prospect. He's tall and long for the division. He's going to be 3 inches taller. He's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage. He's 3 years younger than Esteban, and he's the more experienced fighter overall and in the UFC. He's the much more technical striker at range. Daniel also has excellent conditioning and durability. Esteban RIBOVICS has that dog in him, though. He's very durable, and he can push a pace for 15 minutes. Esteban has a 100% finish rate as a pro with 5 wins by submission and 7 by knockout. We saw his highlight reel knockout power in the McKinney fight, and we saw his heart and ability to go to war in the Rajabov fight. I think Esteban's style is perfect to highlight what I think are the weaknesses in Zellhuber's game. Zellhuber is technical. He wants to use his height and reach to outpoint his opponent at range. He doesn't deal well with pressure, and this was on display in round 1 of the Prado fight. If you walk Daniel down and don't give him room to kick, he does not look good. That is going to be how Esteban wins this fight if he pressures, by putting Daniel on his back foot, by getting into the pocket and trading power shots with Daniel. Both these guys have very reliable chins and excellent conditioning, so I don't see either guy getting knocked out. Zellhuber by sub is a long shot prop that I think that has some value this week, but I think Esteban by decision at plus 400 is a very tempting look. And I'm also interested in Ribovics plus 3.5 points handicap and his money line in this fight. I'm picking El Gringo to win this fight by forcing a pocket boxing war where Ribovics' pressure and output and commitment to throwing power strikes get him the nod on the scorecards in this fight. El Gringo is a dog, and I might make him my dog of the week this week, and the pick is going to be Esteban Ribovics to win this fight by decision. El Gringo by decision is the pick. You guys probably think I'm crazy, right? Oh, wow. Dana's giving fans $25,000 for finding the Easter eggs. That'll be interesting, man. I could use the money, but I probably won't find them because I'm a dumbass. JP Taylor saying, I took a half-unit shot on Ribovics at plus 205, probably taking a small shot on his first-round knockout. Zellhuber gets hit too much, and it's early in fights, too, which lines up with Esteban's most likely win condition. I don't think that's a bad idea, and Esteban's got a 100% finish rate as a professional. No, not 100%, almost 100%. He's got to win by decision over Kenwell Kirk. I like Daniel. Yair put a lot of work in with him, and if it hits the floor, I'm going to get excited. Okay, interesting. Joe Free in the room saying, hey, Weezy, great show so far. You've always been very informative. Thank you. Please hit the like button for Weezy. I'm not always in here, but Weezy is legit, as you see. Just look at this info. Appreciate you, Joe. Thank you for the kind words, man. For sure, Joe. Weezy's the man. Hit the like. Appreciate you, Paul. Benito saying, I like the Esteban money line until they said Zellhuber by decision at plus 130. Now I don't know what to do. Yeah, Zellhuber by decision, I think, is his best win condition for this one for sure. The bookie man saying Baby Arms is in for a treat, but I will say them short arms do have a little bit of power. Yeah, they got a lot of power. And I just don't I think that Zellhuber has just not looked great to me. I mean, he's losing rounds to Giagos. He's losing rounds to Francisco Prado. And the reason he didn't lose rounds 2 and 3 to Prado is because that fight was in Mexico City at elevation, and Prado got tired. I mean, Esteban Ribovics is not going to get tired here. So I don't like this matchup for Zellhuber here. I think he's too technical. I don't think he wants to get in that pocket and scrap with Esteban. The Golden Octagon, my guy, saying sitting in traffic on the way to get a haircut. There's no other voice I'd rather listen to. Oi! Good luck this weekend, and Weezy and Chad. Appreciate you, Matt. Thanks for hanging out in here. JP Taylor saying, I saw Ribovics KO McKinney live in St. Louis. It was phenomenal. Yeah, I had Ribovics as the ass shaving of the week that week, and he made me look really smart by that performance. The bookie man saying Esteban is going to get kicked in his leg here. Yeah, he probably will. Because that's a great way that's one of the ways that Zellhuber uses his length to maintain range and score points. Best real fight pick saying, I believe in freedom of speech, but to say Conor, and I'd rather fight him, Conor can beat a lot of people in the UFC. I disagree. I think Conor would get fucking ragdolled by everybody right now in the UFC in whatever division he would show up in. Cokeheads are not great fighters, you guys. They're not. You need to have dedication. You need to practice. You need to be in shape. You need something more than a strong left hand, and he doesn't even have that anymore. I think everybody in the UFC would fucking destroy Conor McGregor right now. Every single one of them. Remdog saying, not crazy, Weezy. I'm already 2 units invested in Ribovics. You and I are probably going to have a very similar money on Ribovics this week, Remdog. My bad. That's how behind I was. That's all right, dude. Jacob's dog pick is Esteban. Jacob. Oh, on Angelo's and him. Yes. And that dude hits his fucking dog picks all the time. Yo, JP, I was there too, brother. There you go. Cool. It was a fun ass card, Paul. Cheers for sure. I'm James Krause Jr. on this card, said to Bookie. And Colostrum saying Ribovics versus Oral By would be funny as fuck. Yeah, it wouldn't be funny for Esteban. That's for sure. And John Jones has entered the chat. There we go, man. I love it. All right, you guys. Let's move on to this next fight. It's going to be Diego Lopes going up against Brian T. City Ortega here. So this is a weird one, you guys. The line right now is Lopez, the favorite, around -180. Ortega sitting around +155. Fight doesn't go to decision, -130 here. So this is one that I don't think my money's going to go anywhere near. Let's talk about the trends. Brian Ortega is 33 years old. He's 17-3 as a professional, 9-3 in the UFC. Brian has not been able to stay active due to being racked with injuries. He's only had 4 fights since the beginning of 2019. So for those of you counting, that's 4 fights since just the beginning of that year. So that's 4 fights in just under 6 years. Brian was supposed to fight Diego Lopes back in June, but he missed weight, had to ask for a catch weight, got the catch weight, then was not medically cleared to fight on fight day. He sustained an ankle injury jumping up and down before the second Yair fight even started, and he dislocated his shoulder in the first round of the first time that they fought. It does not look like Brian Ortega is physically fit to fight at a high level anymore. Ortega has 1 win in the last 4 years, and he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. He's coming off a 3rd-round submission win over Yair Rodriguez. He was a +125 underdog in that fight. And before that, he lost by 1st-round KO due to the shoulder injury against Yair, and he was a -175 favorite in the first iteration of that fight. So Ortega could have been had at a discount in the rematch, and he cashed as an underdog. But the market hasn't done a good job of pricing Brian recently, which makes sense because of the long layoffs, because of the high variance in his performance. Brian Ortega's fights have been very difficult to price, and when they're difficult to price, they become very risky to gamble on. Diego Lopes is 29 years old. He's 24-6 as a pro, and he's 4-1 in the UFC. Brian's only UFC loss came in his debut, which was on short notice against future title challenger, and that was Movsar Evloev, and he was a +600 underdog in that fight. After that, Diego has strung together 4 straight wins, 3 by first-round finishes. Diego won by first-round submission versus Gavin Tucker. He was a -170 favorite in that fight. He got a first-round knockout over Pat Sabatini as a +100 underdog, a first-round knockout over Sadiq Youssef as a -150 favorite, and a unanimous decision win over Dan Ige. Dan Ige took that fight on 6 hours' notice. That was up at 165 pounds, and he was a -260 favorite in that fight. Diego's been cashing and smashing lately, and his prices have not been out of hand considering how dominant he's been. So I'd say the market has been underpricing Diego's lines as of late. The strength of schedule, Brian Ortega has 12 UFC fights compared to 5 for Lopez. He's faced the more experienced guys overall. The combined UFC records of Brian's 12 UFC opponents is 141 wins and 82 losses, while for Lopez's 5 UFC opponents, it's 33 wins and 15 losses. So both guys are facing guys with winning records. It's just that Ortega has been in there with champions like Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar. He's got wins over the Korean Zombie, Yair Rodriguez, Renato Moicano, Cub Swanson, and Frankie Edgar, while Lopez's best wins are over Sadiq Youssef and Dan Ige on 1 day's notice. I definitely say with confidence that Ortega has been tested against the more experienced guys with the better resumes at the UFC level. On the feet, these guys are very similar fighters in that they're so confident in their Brazilian jiu-jitsu that it allows them to be very aggressive and not care if they get taken down. So they get to be very aggressive and throw with power and purpose on the feet. And you see here, Brian Ortega's got 57% takedown defense. Lopez 54% takedown defense, so they don't care if their opponents go out there and take them down. Ortega throws more volume on the feet, and I'd say that Lopez, without question, has shown more power up here at this level. When it comes to the grappling exchanges, these guys are going to both be very well matched, but it's very unlikely that either one of these guys is going to try a takedown. I think that this is going to be a striking match. And as such, I would have to go with Diego Lopes being the younger guy and being the more physically fit guy. But I don't think my money's going to get anywhere near this fight, simply because, first of all, I need to see Brian Ortega weigh in. I need to know that this guy is going to be able to make 146 pounds. I think it's very unlikely that he does. I think it's potentially something that, he might never make 145 again. He might never fight at the level that he used to fight at. And I mean, I could see this guy getting hurt out there. I mean, he's gotten hurt in his last 2 fights. He dislocated his shoulder 2 fights ago. He hurt himself jumping up and down with nobody near him before the fight even started. So backing Brian Ortega at this point just seems like a complete fool's errand. But I feel like the line should be much wider, seeing as Ortega, the chances that Ortega even performs at a level even close to where he performed when he was somewhat healthy is unlikely. So I'm going to have to go with Lopes. I'm going to have to go with him inside the distance. And I think that he's going to be the first. I think he's going to knock out Brian Ortega here. And I think that there's potentially an injury or just a straight up knockout. But I think it's going to come quickly. And I'm going with Diego Lopes to win this one by first round knockout. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. I think Austin Bashi would probably finish McGregor in the first round. Yeah. Gerald saying the freckled salamander. We got the Austin Found saying T-City busting parlays. Let's see if he makes weight. Because if he goes out there and he makes weight, that's going to be an indication that maybe he is ready to go. And if he is ready to fight, he's fought the better brand of competition. He's been more well-tested. And he's got the better pro record against the higher level of competition. So, yeah, if T-City comes in 100% healthy, on weight, ready to fight, that changes everything. But until I see him making weight, I got to assume that he's going to be falling apart like a Chinese motorcycle, which is exactly what we've seen from him in the last 6 years. It looks like his body is failing him. He's always had the heart, he's always had the durability, and he's always had the skill. But if the body is not cooperating, it's going to be impossible for him to perform at this level. And JP saying he's bringing a razor to the cage, going to shave some Ortega ass. I wouldn't be surprised. Ortega's getting smashed, says Omni. Achromatic saying wouldn't be surprised if Lopes is the first to actually KO or TKO Ortega. Yeah, we've got 2 KO losses for Ortega, but they're not really, like, one of them is a referee stoppage, the other one is an injury. Shaky with Life saying he's very high on Lopes here, Wheezy. I'm with you. I'm definitely picking Lopes, but I want to see these weigh-ins before I make an official opinion about it. Remdog saying, only thing I don't like on the Lopes side is his focus on wanting to finish early so we can corner Alexa after. Could be looking past Ortega. That's a very good point. JP saying, I think we're entering the Ortega collect the check stage, which isn't great for him because he never fights. Yes, agreed. Unless your name is Alex or Max, you're not beating Ortega, and he always comes back from time off looking great. That is true. Came back from time off looking great against the Korean Zombie. He came off after taking that time off from the shoulder injury, looked great against Yair, but he still hurt himself. Before the fight even started, he hurt his ankle. I just don't think that the durability is there. I was leaning Ortega, but now I'm picking Diego because it doesn't look like Brian has done any form of exercise in a long time. I'm going Diego based on work rate, and Diego has that drive. I think T-City just doesn't have that anymore. Again, paycheck fight. Yep. Omni saying Ortega's kind of overrated because of his Volk fight, but he was getting smashed in the face by Yair. Lopes hits a lot harder than Yair. That'll be interesting. Yeah. Lopes is up and coming, super hungry, sound everywhere. Ortega is on his way out. Don't overthink it. I'm not betting this, but it's going to be good. Yep. John Jones, the pound for pound best fighter in the world who would definitely be the only person to walk out of a room if he walked into it with any other fighter, including Islam Makhachev. John Jones is the man. He's the best to ever do it. Omni saying Lopes going to hurt Ortega bad. Ige was a tougher fight. Yeah, John Jones. Yeah. I take Diego round 3 or decision on FanDuel. Okay. Good to see no John Jones blasphemy in the chat. No, sir. We got Diego's going to take the fight no matter what. I'm not worried about on the scale. Yep. Emo for the win, says my guy Genova 7. We got JP saying if a fight gets canceled, my money, it's this one. Ortega looks thick, not in a good way. Yep. Austin Bashi versus Isaac Belgarian. That would be, let's give Bashi an easier fight than that to start on. Let's not just throw him to the wolves right away. Don't do it. Lopez is free. There you go. Do you think Lopez Ortega is 50-50 on the ground? I think it's very close on the ground, but I don't think either one of them is going to wrestle offensively. Lopez Grasso is free. It's not free, dude. Valentina is going to make that close. A lot of people are counting out Ortega, but not me. I'm picking T-City. He's going to shut up a lot of people. It's definitely possible, man. Unless you're Alex or Max, Topuria smokes Ortega. Yeah, Topuria. Yeah, absolutely. If he loses, we're getting Ortega Yair 3, potentially. Ortega has a better resume than Lopez, no question about it. Lopez hasn't beaten anyone. Nah, man, he's got good wins, dude. Dan Ige is a very good win. We got Clark saying, I feel robbed. I bet 2.5 units MERAB money line at minus 135. Now I feel like pick flipping. What should I do? I don't know, man. If you don't want to go more than 2.5 units, don't R about. Just let it ride. That's what I would do, man. I'm gonna laugh real hard when Ortega beats Lopez. You'll be one of the people doing it. Yeah. Volk had a better resume than Topuria. Yep. I'm not saying free, but you know nothing is free. We got Garcia versus Bryce Mitchell. That's a fun fight. Double down, Clark H. Don't forget, anyone can look good beating up cans. 2 hours off the couch. Ige gave him a hard time. Ortega busy playing video games while Diego's training. All right, guys, let's move on to the next fight here. It is going to be the co-main event. Alexa Grasso minus 139 going up against Valentina Shevchenko around plus 120. Fight doesn't go to decision here at plus 155. Let's get the trends up here. A lot of fight notes to scroll past. There we go. Alexa Grasso. Let me get some coffee here. 31 years old, 16-3-1 as a pro, 8-3-1 in the UFC. She's the current UFC flyweight champion of the world, and this will be her third title fight against Valentina Shevchenko. Alexa is currently on a 6-fight unbeaten streak, and she's coming off a draw against Valentina as a plus 145 underdog. Alexa should have lost the fight by split decision, but Judge Mike Bell inexplicably scored round 5 as a 10-8 for Grasso and made his final scorecard 47-47. If he had scored that round properly, Valentina would be champion right now. So I'd say Grasso priced at plus 145 was fair, if not a little bit cheap. Before the draw, Alexa won the flyweight belt with a fourth round rear naked choke submission over Shevchenko as a plus 575 underdog, and she got her title shot off the heels of a dominant 50-45 unanimous decision win in a 5-round main event over Viviane Araujo as a minus 230 favorite. If anything, Alexa has been priced cheaply as of late, especially when she won the title, so I'm not sure if the market is caught up with how well Alexa has been performing lately. Now, Valentina Shevchenko, she's 36 years old. She's 23-4-1 as a pro, and she's 12-3-1 in the UFC. She's the former UFC flyweight champion. She's widely considered to be one of the best female mixed martial artists of all time. Valentina was on a 9-fight winning streak and had successfully defended her flyweight belt 7 times before losing by 4th-round submission to Alexa Grasso as a minus 900 favorite. Valentina was priced as a minus 175 favorite following the surprising loss, and she should have won that fight by split decision. So I'd say she was maybe slightly overpriced in that fight. Before that, Valentina was very lucky to edge out a split decision versus Taylor Santos as a minus 625 favorite. So I think it's safe to say the market has seriously overestimated where Valentina is at as a fighter right now. She's 36 years old, most likely on the downside of her career, and she's been significantly overpriced by the market in 2 of her last 3 fights. Valentina's plus 120 this time around, and I think that accurately reflects where these fighters are right now in their respective careers. When it comes to the strength of schedule, both of these ladies have fought top-notch UFC strength of schedule in their respective careers, but Valentina has been in the deep end of the pool since day one. Her UFC debut was against Sarah Kaufman, and that was at 135 pounds. And then her next 4 opponents after the Kaufman fight were Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, Juliana Pena, and then Amanda Nunes again. 13 of Valentina's 16 UFC fights have been scheduled for 5 rounds, and she's defended her belt 7 times. The strength of schedule edge definitely goes to Valentina, even though the overall metrics are fairly close. When it comes to the striking, these ladies are very well matched at distance striking range. Alexa does her best work in the pocket with her hands. She stays busy. She can switch stances effectively, and she has had a decent amount of success when she strikes from the southpaw stance against Valentina. Valentina has the superior distance striking metrics over the long term compared to Grasso. She's got a positive 1.3 distance striking differential compared to positive 0.6 for Grasso, and her accuracy at 45.7% is better than Grasso's at 39%, and her defense is also about 7% better than Grasso's. So Shevchenko does great work with her kicks. She's a low-volume striker with pinpoint counters. Over the 2 fights she's had with Grasso, Valentina has won the distance striking battle, 147 significant strikes to 101, but Grasso was the one who landed a knockdown. So I think both of these ladies are live to find success in the distance striking exchanges of this fight, but I slightly favor Grasso's ability to win moments. Now, when it comes to the clinch and the grappling here, each fighter has found success in different ways. Valentina has landed 8 takedowns over their 2 fights, and she's racked up 14 minutes of control time. Now, Alexa Grasso's only gotten 1 takedown and 4 minutes of control time. So that being said, Grasso has done a better job of moment winning in the grappling exchanges by taking advantage of Valentina's mistakes. Valentina likes the head and arm throw, and when she's went for it, Alexa's been able to get to her back. Alexa found Valentina's back in a scramble in the first fight and was able to finish with the rear naked choke, and Alexa was able to get another pivotal back take in the 5th round of the rematch that stole her the round, and it got her the 10-8 scorecard from Mike Bell that saved her from losing the belt there. So I favor Valentina's ability to win minutes with her wrestling, with her top control and ground and pound, but I like Alexa's ability to win the moments by taking advantage of Valentina's mistakes with her opportunistic back takes and scrambles. These ladies are really well matched in the grappling exchanges of this fight. Alexa's done the better work in the clinch over the last 2 fights as she's outlanded Valentina 39-8. Insignificant clinch strikes. So that could be the area that actually decides this fight. You know, Alexa might do a little bit better work at distance striking range. Valentina might win a few more minutes in the grappling exchanges, but when this fight's up against that fence, whoever does the dirty boxing might be the one that actually gets the nod in this fight. Alexa Grasso, the strengths on paper here, 5.5 years younger. I believe that she's the better pocket boxer. And I believe that she's the better moment winner wherever the fight goes, whether it's at distance striking range or whether it's on the mat. Now, Shevchenko's more experienced overall and at the UFC level. She's got 8 more pro fights, almost 2 more hours of pro cage time. She's also got 4 more fights at the UFC level and 105 more minutes of octagon time. And she's the better minute winner in the grappling exchanges. She's going to be the one more likely to offensively wrestle, to get takedowns, and to win minutes on top. So the trilogy in this title fight matchup is here. Alexa won the first fight by 4th round submission, and the second fight should have been a split decision win for Valentina, but it was a very close fight. I think this is also going to be a very close fight because they are very well matched. Valentina's done a better job of using her wrestling to win minutes. Alexa has shown the more opportunistic grappling game, and she's done better work in the clinch with her dirty boxing. The distance striking exchanges have been extremely close, with Valentina throwing a little more volume and Alexa flashing a little more power. Close decisions usually go the way of the defending champion, and that is Alexa Grasso. Grasso is the younger fighter, which is significant. This is UFC Noche, so it's reasonable to assume the Mexican fighter could get a little bit of favorable treatment from the judges here. And Alexa's ability to win moments wherever the fight goes could make up for any minute losing deficiencies she might have in this fight. So I have to lean to the side of the younger Latina fighter here who has the ability to steal rounds with big shots on the feet and opportunistic back takes on the mat. And I'm going to pick Alexa Grasso to win this fight by decision. There we go. 38 comments. Dear God. Yeah, I can't go through all these comments, you guys, but let's see here. How often do ex-champs win their belt back? Grasso all day, but it'll still be close. Yeah, I think that, you know, they're probably going to give it to Grasso if it's close, but, you know, that's, you can't prove that, you know. I mean, the judges will side with whoever gives them the biggest bag of money. Just remember that, you know. Yeah, Val won last fight. I agree Val won the last fight with you, man. Yeah. Yeah, Val didn't win the 5th round. No way. Shevchenko has won nearly 40 minutes between their 2 fights. Yes, I agree. Y'all too caught up in the past. Young fighters get better fast, especially when they're champion. Alexa won round 2, 4, and 5. Yes, I agree. Valentina by KO or sub plus 500 is a great prop considering 65% of wins are by these conditions. Yes. All right, you guys. She's hanging it up, not even a secret anymore. Yeah, it could be, man. But anyway, are the overs parlayable? Yeah, that's one of the things that we looked at on probability this week. Was we like that over 3.5 rounds at minus 295 is a potential parlay piece. The price isn't phenomenal, but stylistically, I do think that this one's going to go the full 25, but it's still a very pricey bet. And then somebody said something about probability. Benito saying, you said on probability that we are overpaying for the fight goes to decision, and I agree. Fight doesn't go, went from plus 115 to plus 150. I don't hate it, and I tend to agree, man. But I would rather just bet a Grasso finish only because I think she's much more likely to get the finish in this spot. What is a Grasso finish only? Where is that this week? Jesus, it's minus 250 for a fighter that's minus 139 on the money line. So the bookies definitely agree that Alexa Grasso is the one that's way more likely to get the finish in this fight. Very interesting. I think that's a great reason to back her money line for sure. All right. Let's move on to the next fight, which is the main event. It is going to be Sugar Sean O'Malley, your current UFC bantamweight champion of the world. He's minus 132, and he's going to be going up against MERAB, the Machine Dvalishvili, the plus 112 underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Sitting at minus 120 for this fight. Get the stats up here for you guys. And let me get to my notes. Get past the fight now. Right, there it is. Recent trends. Let's get a sip here. Sean O'Malley, 29 years old, 18-1 as a professional, 10-1 in the UFC. He's the current UFC bantamweight champion of the world, 7-fight unbeaten streak, and he's coming off a 50-45 unanimous decision win over Marlon Vera. And he was a minus 275 favorite in that fight. A fight where he outstruck Marlon 230 to 89 in significant strikes. Before that, Sean won the bantamweight strap versus Aljamain Sterling, a second-round knockout as a plus 200 underdog, and he got his title shot off the strength of a split decision win over Peter Yan as a plus 230 underdog. So Sean has been priced properly against Vera, and he cashed as a plus 200 or lower underdog in the 2 fights before that. So Sean has definitely silenced the haters, and he looks to be in top form going into his fight against MERAB Dvalishvili. And frankly, If you've been backing Sean O'Malley on the money line lately, he's been making you a pile of money. So I would say that the market still hasn't caught up with how many improvements Sean O'Malley has made in his game. MERAB Dvalishvili on the other side is 33 years old. He's 17-4 as a pro, and he's 10-2 in the UFC so far. MERAB's currently on a 10-fight winning streak going into this title fight with O'Malley. He won a 29-28 unanimous decision versus Henry Cejudo. He was a -260 favorite in that fight. Before that, he won a 50-45 unanimous decision versus Peter Yan as a +210 underdog in that fight. And then prior to the Yan fight, MERAB won a 29-28 unanimous decision versus Jose Aldo as a -150 favorite. The market knows who MERAB is and how he wins fights. The market underestimated both Sean and MERAB when they fought Peter Yan, and both guys passed that test with flying colors. I'd say the market has been willing to pay a premium to bet MERAB's money line, and it's been paying off for 10 fights in a row. So both these fights, both these guys' UFC strength of schedule, they both have really good strength of schedule metrics, but MERAB has been fighting higher level guys for longer. Both guys have 12 UFC fights, and the combined UFC records of Sean's opponents are 86-69, and for MERAB, it's 78-55. MERAB's wins over Cody Stamann, Marlon Moraes, Jose Aldo, Peter Yan, John Dodson, Casey Kenny, and Henry Cejudo, they rate slightly better in win-loss ratio compared to O'Malley's signature wins over Aljamain Sterling, Marlon Vera, Peter Yan, and Raulian Paiva. O'Malley's wins before the Paiva fight were against Chris Montino, a completely washed-up Thomas Almeida, a even more washed-up Eddie Wineland, Jose Quinones, Andre Sukumta, and Terrion Ware. So while Sean has beaten some top-notch guys lately, he definitely was a can crusher on his climb up the 135-pound ladder. So I think MERAB has been tested at a higher level for a longer time. When it comes to the distance striking here, obviously Sean is the better striker. He's taller, he's longer, he's more technical and precise, and he has legitimate one-punch knockout power. MERAB is a pressure fighter who drowns you in volume. He's going to come forward, he's going to throw a ton of punches and constantly mix in his takedown attempts. That pressure is going to open up opportunities for Sean to land a straight right, an uppercut, or a step-in knee. Sean is most certainly going to be live for a KO if he can properly time MERAB's takedown entries, but if he doesn't, MERAB is going to make him defend constantly, and if Sean isn't able to stop the takedown attempts, he is going to use so much energy getting back to his feet while carrying MERAB's weight that the chances of him finding that nuclear shot are going to decrease with each passing round. The question is, how much time does Sean get to work at distance striking range in this fight? When it comes to the clinch and the grappling stylistic components, Sean is going to have answers for the constant pressure and grappling output of MERAB. Whether it's finding the big shots when MERAB enters or figuring out a way to defend the takedown attempts and keep the fight standing, it's going to be on Sean to have a plan for dealing with the suffocating pressure and output of MERAB Dvalishvili. If Sean has not improved his takedown defense between the Yan fight and now, this is going to be a very long night for him. Sean O'Malley is the younger fighter. He's 4 years younger. He's 5 inches taller. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage, and he's the switch stance fighter here. Both these guys have a similar amount of professional experience, but it's MERAB who's got a lot more minutes of cage time, both as a professional and in the UFC. Sean O'Malley, the better distance striker. MERAB Dvalishvili, the better wrestler, and the strength of schedule numbers for both guys are similar, but I favor MERAB there. So when it comes to the matchup, this is the most fascinating fight on the card because I've been waiting to fade Sean O'Malley with a grappler for a very long time. I tried to do it against Aljamain Sterling, but Aljamain, I mean, that was really one of the dumbest performances I've ever seen. Aljamain shoots 0 takedowns in the first round until there's like something like 15 seconds left. So he shot a takedown with 0 hope of turning it into any kind of offensive production at all in the first round. And then he got knocked out in the second. So You know, like Merab, we know is going to wrestle. Merab's just not going to stand at distance striking range with Sean O'Malley like a moron, like Aljamain Sterling did. And he's not going to make that same mistake. And it seemed like Sterling felt like he was being set up to lose the belt there. They made him do a quick turnaround. And obviously, you know, Aljamain's boring ass fights as a champion, you know, didn't earn him any favors. And they really wanted Sean to get that belt. Now, we've got to worry about the cut for Dvalishvili. We got to worry about, does he have staff? Because if he doesn't have staff, or I mean, if he does have staff and he's unable to push a pace that we're used to him pushing, Merab Dvalishvili without pace is not going to be a good fighter. So we have to be able to count on Merab and his ability to be able to fight with that gas tank that he always fights with the pressure and output that he always fights with, whether it be in the wrestling, where he's attempting 17.5 takedowns per 15 minute, which is 13.2 more than the divisional average. He attempts 15 distance strikes per minute, which is 11.7 more than the divisional average. He lands 2.3 more significant strikes than the divisional average. I mean, this guy has output wherever the fight goes, and his ability to be able to constantly bring offense your way forces his opponents to only play defense. And like, Merab is just a better version of Colby Covington. Colby Covington was just the guy who was constantly pressuring you, but even Colby didn't shoot 17.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. Colby didn't throw 15 distance strike attempts per minute either. You know, he's much lower volume than Merab. So while Merab is not like this lockdown wrestler, get one takedown and the round is over, it's the constant offensive output that makes him such a challenging opponent to deal with. I've been waiting for somebody to actually grapple Sean O'Malley, and I think that Merab has the style to be able to do it successfully. We know he has the conditioning to be able to do it for the full 25 minutes. And if Sean doesn't get the time that he needs in order to land the big shot at distance striking exchange, in the distance striking exchanges, I think Merab is just going to cook him. And I'm going to pick Merab to win this fight by decision. And new on UFC Noche, neither of these guys are Mexican. I don't know which one is more Mexican, but seeing Merab dance in that Mexican restaurant leads me to believe that the Mexican fight gods are going to be smiling down upon the Georgian on Saturday at Noche in the Sphere in Las Vegas. And the pick is going to be Merab the Machine Dvalishvili to win by decision. I'm going with Grasso by decision. I'm going Lopez KO1. I'm going RIBOVICS decision, Osbourne decision, Dumont decision, Bahamondes KO3, JAUREGUI KO2, CHAIREZ KO2, and ROSAS Jr. by second round submission. Those are the picks. What's up with you guys in the chat? Ton of comments. Watch the Cejudo Merab fight again and then think about betting on Merab. Yeah, I watched that fight. I bet on Cejudo. Merab absolutely fucking cooked him in the second and third rounds there and out-wrestled an Olympic gold medal wrestler there, while Sean O'Malley nowhere clear the wrestling ability of Merab or of Henry Cejudo. Benito, I've never been more back and forth on a fight. I'll just shut the fuck up and listen to my Uncle Weezy. Weezy is a Merab believer now after he backed Cejudo last time, my man. Yeah, I backed Cejudo. Cejudo won the first round. He had a groin injury, so I don't know if he was able to perform at the level that we were used to seeing him perform, but I really thought he'd be able to out-wrestle Merab, but that did not happen. Merab out-wrestled him, and as a result, he wasn't able to win the minutes. Jan took down O'Malley multiple times. Yes, he did. Merab takedown accuracy is in 40% range. He's not that great of a wrestler, and he does not hold his opponents down. Sean is going to cook Merab. Yeah, guys, I hate to tell you this, but Merab only spends 46% of his UFC cage time in control time positions. This guy spends a lot of time at distance striking range. And while he's there, he lands 1.6 more distance strikes per minute than his opponents, and he almost doubles up their volume, and he shows 62% defense. The threat of the wrestling makes MERAB a much better striker than what he should be. So I don't think Sean's going to cook MERAB. I think he's got a chance to win moments here, whether it be with a submission or with a knockout. But I don't see him winning minutes against MERAB Dvalishvili here. That's going to be a very difficult task. Yeah, I hear that Colby is a horrible human being. Cough, said John Jones. Yeah. The bookie man says split. Yeah, it could absolutely be a split for sure. Dear MMA gods, please let O'Malley KO the EPO goblin. Please, MMA gods, please, says Achromatic. I have not seen two guys who are less Mexican than these two. That's for sure. Good luck Saturday, everyone, says Gerald. Love the show. Wheezy says there will be blood. Even with 40% takedown accuracy, he has 79 takedowns landed. That is third all time. It's an amazing number. Clark saying, is MERAB's only win condition a decision? If so, what's the value in the overs? I just think that the fact that people think this fight, the market is saying it goes to decision half the time. In addition, I have to tell you guys, DraftKings is trying to get O'Malley by KO bets. They're offering something where if you bet on O'Malley to win by KO, you're going to be entered into some other thing where you could win a bunch of money if you win by first 60 seconds KO. Every time DraftKings boosts something, it never happens. Israel Adesanya boosted to plus 100 to beat Sean Strickland. Bam, you lose. Conor McGregor boosted to plus 100 when he was a minus 300 favorite against Dustin Poirier. Loses. If DraftKings is boosting something, it's not going to happen. They're boosting O'Malley by KO. That's terrifying if you're on the O'Malley by KO side, because I assure you, Disney Corporation is not in the habit of handing out free money. So we'll see how this goes. Annoyed Squidward saying, I love Cejudo, but he gassed. He's not the same, Wheezy. Well, he was hurt too. Colostrum saying MERAB rescued Henry from a burning home. Yeah, he picked him up, put him on his shoulder, and walked him over to Zuckerberg. Polnick in the room saying, oi, Uncle Wheezy's the man. Appreciate you, Tim. We got JP saying MERAB is an avalanche. Yup, I agree with that, Wheezy. MERAB will likely win a decision, but I don't think we see it. We might not. First person I've seen agree with me on MERAB winning. Great minds. You got to think. Let's go, Count. Cuban Assassin saying we need the Noche Mermaid, Wheezy. The Noche Mermaid. Kim Winslow. There's your sign. DK giveaway fade. That's for sure, man. Don't touch that, LOL. I will not touch that. MERAB round 4 and 5 numbers are wild, plus 3,300 plus 4,000. That's interesting, man. I love those, Rem Dog, and he's going to be sprinkling those. All right, you guys, we're already 2 hours and 17 minutes in, so let's get this over with. Bootsy Collins Memorial. Dogs are barking pick of the week. I like several underdogs this week. I'm picking Edgar CHAIREZ to win. I'm picking IGNACIO BAHAMONDES to win. I am picking Ode Osbourne to win. I'm picking Esteban El Gringo RIBOVICS to win. I'm picking MERAB Dvalishvili to win. I'm picking 5 underdogs to win this week. But when it comes to, let me hang on just a second. When it comes to a dog bet, you got to bet somebody that's got that dog in them. And it's got to be El Gringo. Esteban El Gringo RIBOVICS plus 185 is your Uncle Wheezy's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. I'm going to be looking to sprinkle RIBOVICS plus 3.5 points handicap at minus 120. I'm going to be looking to sprinkle his money line, and I'm going to be looking to sprinkle his decision prop at plus 400. I think that if you go back and you watch the tape on ZELLHUBER, he's losing minutes to guys like Christos Giagos and Francisco Prado, who have a very similar style to Esteban RIBOVICS. The difference between RIBOVICS and Prado and the other guy is that RIBOVICS has cardio and he can push that frantic pace for the full 3 rounds. I think he's winning this fight, you guys. I'm not that impressed with ZELLHUBER's minute-winning ability, and I don't see him as much of a finisher. I think if RIBOVICS does get a finish here, it could be KO or sub, but I think if ZELLHUBER gets a finish, it's going to be by submission. I'm picking Esteban RIBOVICS to win this by decision, and I think his money line at plus 185 is one of my favorite underdog bets of the week, which leaves us with one order of business left to go. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We've hit a few in a row now, and we're looking from last week. We had Steve Garcia to shave the ass of Kyle Nelson. He gets a first-round knockout in that fight and makes us look good. And we're looking to stack another one on top of last week's win here. And it's interesting. We're picking some favorites to win. Alexa Grasso's a favorite. We're picking her to win. Diego Lopes is a favorite. We're picking him to win, but I feel like I need to see Ortega on the scale before I'm confident about that one way or another. We're picking Dumont to win, who's a slight underdog. We're picking JAUREGUI to win, who's a female, so we can't bet her. We can't pick on ROSAS because he's minus 1,000, so we're going to have to give you an ass shaving of the week that's not a favorite. Valley Flow Striking, stand up. Chile, stand up. It's UFC Noche. And I think Ignacio Bahamondes is a much, much, much better striker than Manuel Torres. Both guys have power. But when it comes to the conditioning, when it comes to the durability, I much favor Ignacio Bahamondes in the spot. Both guys are durable, but we've seen Bahamondes go 3 full rounds several times while we've never even seen what Torres looks like out of the first round at the UFC level. Bahamondes is an underdog, but I think he's going to win this fight, and I think he's going to win it inside the distance with a second or a third round knockout, potentially even a submission against Manuel Torres. So I like the Ignacio Bahamondes money line at plus 110. I like Ignacio Bahamondes inside the distance at plus 160. And a round 2-3 prop here for Ignacio could be a cheeky way to play this as well. But your Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week is going to be Ignacio Bahamondes to shave the ass of Manuel Torres. We got Clark saying, love you, Weezy. Love you, Clark. Thank you for checking in. We got Taking Your Top Knot saying DK promotion is bullcrap. It's not even cash. It's free bets. You win 0 cash. Just a bunch of free bets. Got to read the fine print, guys. Yup, I hear you, man. And ring a ding ding, you guys. JP Taylor with a $10 donation saying, thanks, Uncle Weezy. Appreciate you, brother. Good luck this weekend. Good luck to you, JP. Thank you so much for the donation to the show. Appreciate you, man. And we got Tim saying, I hope you're wrong because I put 400 on O'Malley's money line last night. Dude, I've been wrong before, Tim. Believe me. I've been wrong so many times that it would be stupid to even count. So good luck to you on your bet. I'll fuck with that. Wheezy said annoyed Squidward. Let's go, man. I'm on Esteban money line. Let's go, Clark. Let's cash that. Why no Yasmin? Because she's female, and I don't pick females for the ass shaving of the week because they always let me down. So, and plus she's minus 600 on the money line, so you don't need me to tell you that she's going to win because she probably is going to win. Annoyed parlayed Sean and Raul at plus 106. There you go. We got Ignacio rounds 2 and 3. Looks nice. Agreed. And we're embracing the Mexican spirit with that bold choice. Yes, we are. We're embracing the underdog as well, as we've got 5 underdog picks on this card. So I'm going to start putting in my bets here. I'm going to make my fight notes available to everybody that subscribes to the Patreon or the Dub Club right after this show is over. Look for some timestamps later on tonight. 63 of you still hanging out live in here. We just had 72. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And please consider joining the Patreon so you can get access to all the phenomenal stats that you see here, whether it be the individual fighter stats for every fighter on the card, the matchup stats where you can see side by side each fighter's statistics compared to their opponent and compared to the divisional benchmarks, so you can see whether they're above or below average in terms of divisional performance. The over-under betting models, the the prop betting models, the fight write-ups, which you see right here, over 60 pages of fight write-ups, access to the Discord, access to all the tracked bets. There's a bunch of information on that Patreon. Please check it out. The description is in the link is in the description of the video. I would love it if you guys would support the work. That would mean a lot. But I appreciate you guys for hanging out. Let's stack cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC 306, UFC Noche, and let's bathe in the blood of the bookies whose bets we cash this week. Thank you guys for hanging out. Good luck on all of your bets, and we will see you guys next time. We got Annoyed Squidward saying, we got, how much is the Patreon? You could do $10 a month for the advanced stats or $25 a month to get the probability tier that has all the betting models and access to the probability show pay-per-view. Thanks, Unc. You're the best, says Tim. We got JP saying, leave a comment for the algo. Appreciate you. 10 or 25. Great deal, says Iceland Farts. He said he's been a Patreon member for 6 months. Truly appreciate the support, my man. Clark saying, let's stack cash tickets, etc. Let's good luck this week, everyone. Can confirm Patreon is worth the money, guys, says Tim. Appreciate you, Tim. And Tarzan in here with the swords. Appreciate you guys. Take it easy. We'll see you guys next time, and let's make a bunch of money betting on UFC Noche on Saturday. Take care.